All right, everyone, welcome to the Wednesday midday and midweek edition of Reality Check here on the home of Black Talk Media. It is WURD. We're here live on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, wordradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app as well. You might be watching us live on WURD TV, by the way, at youtube.com/onWURD and also facebook.com/4WURD as well. Good morning, and welcome to the program. I'm Charles Ellison. I'm your host. I'm your executive producer and creator of Reality Check here on WURD. Go to @EllisonReport on Twitter.com. I'm @EllisonReport on Twitter.com, or check out our companion magazine. Reality Check here on WURD has a companion magazine called The B Note, thebnote.com, THEBNote, BENote.com. Definitely for more insightful analysis or an extension of the conversations you hear sometimes on Reality Check. And those conversations are expanded on at thebnote.com. You can also subscribe. You can receive the every time content posts on thebnote.com. You can have that content delivered straight to your email inbox as well. A lot of interest. I did see a lot of interest yesterday. We had, well, over the past couple of days, had a piece that actually I wrote, a little bit of analysis that I did entitled "Black Men Voters Are Not the Kids in the Back of the Classroom." Check that out when you get a chance. There's been a lot of conversation about that. Caught a bit of a viral kick on Twitter. Black men voters are not the kids in the back of the classroom. So there's been a lot of conversation, a lot of concerns about self-suppressed black votes, and black men are getting a lot of the blame, black men as a whole, just because you got a few kids in the back of the classroom who are doing the spitballing and throwing papers in the back of people's heads. But you know, when you look at the pure numbers, yeah, there's some concerns there, and we talked about it yesterday with Stefan Hankin during our strategist segment. A lot of people were a bit taken aback by some of the numbers that he was showing, but yeah, it is true. There's a very alarming number of black voters out there who are saying that they're going to tap out of all elections to tap out of. This is the election y'all want to tap out of. Some of you out there, but it's not the vast majority of you. The vast majority of black men still voted the way that they needed to in their community's best interest back in 2016, and the vast majority of black men voters are going to do the same in 2020, although there is a concerning number of black male voters who are either looking at voting for Trump or are considering doing the whole third-party write-in thing. That said, you don't suddenly just punish the whole for the actions of a few. You don't suddenly just not give the classroom recess just because, once again, the few kids in the back of the classroom are the ones who are being disruptive. So this gives you the numbers. When you get into those conversations, or you have, some of you sisters out there want to just make these wholesale denouncements of black men or brothers. I understand, brothers, sometimes some of us out there, we can be knuckleheads, but at the end of the day, vast majority of black men voters are doing the responsible thing. They're doing what they need to do for their community, for their families, for their households, for their neighborhoods. They're voting the way they should. I put the numbers there in this piece at thebnote.com. Black men voters are not the kids in the back of the classroom. So when you get a moment, if you haven't already, check it out and read it. Phone lines are open at the moment. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Speaking of black men and black male voters, particularly young black male voters, those Gen Z voters who are out there, this will be their first election of their lifetime if they are registered to vote. We do have former President Obama visiting Philadelphia today. So there's a rally that is planned for later tonight at Citizens Bank Park, a drive-through rally. And also President Obama expected or scheduled to be talking with young brothers in Philly about a variety of issues. So Democrats, particularly the Biden campaign, making a strong pitch to black male voters, now viewing black male voters as key, as very decisive in this particular election. Wish that Democrats have felt the same way in 2016. Wish they have felt about that earlier over the past several years. And that's one of the points that I make in that piece at thebnote.com, that a lot of this is really, I mean, they're going to have to do it. We have 2 weeks to go. and we're now less than 2 weeks away from the end of election month, because it's not just election day. We've had a lot of voting that's been happening, a lot of early voting, a lot of long lines, unfortunately, tragically so, but people are soldiering through and standing in those long lines and making sure that they vote. But it's just a dollar short day late on this sudden focus or this sudden emphasis on black male voters. It should have been like that over the past several years, but you had a lot of commentary, a lot of discussion, and you still do, just to this day, a lot of discussion once again, and it was a dangerous discussion. We had warned people about that over the past several years. Do not punish all black men voters just because 13%, just 13% of black male voters voted for, not all black male voters voted for President Trump in 2016. Now, I can understand those condemnations as far as white women voters are concerned, because the majority of white women voters, a very substantial majority of white women voters, particularly those white suburban women voters, did vote. They bucked for Trump in 2016. So we can get into, that widespread condemnation of white female voters, but there's been a lot of widespread condemnation of all black men, and I'm still, baffled by that, and it's still happening. Now, there was this weird tweet that actually prompted this sarcastic hashtag that some of you may have seen on social media yesterday, particularly on Twitter, the hashtag blame black men, and that was prompted by or triggered by former ESPN host, ousted ESPN host, celebrated black sports journalist Jamila Hill, and she put out this weird tweet about like she's convinced that black men are only concerned about getting close to the white patriarchy as opposed to dismantling it. Like, is this the same Jamila Hill who was like posting pictures of her winding up and dancing with a former white New England Patriots player? Same Jamila Hill who was like endorsing Crown Royal liquor for Black History Month this year. So, I mean, if that's not trying to get close to the white patriarchy, I don't know what is. So, it's just, once again, just because of the antics, the shenanigans of a few, just because you get these two knuckleheads who are, these prominent big chain rapper icons, Ice Cube and 50 Cent, suddenly jump onto the scene and express their political views. Suddenly it's all brothers, like all black men. The black man is just wrong, all black men. It's like, folks have got to cut that out. Second, first of all, we as black people, like, separate our, like, whatever personal issues we have going on or whatever personal relationship issues we have going on in our lives. That has nothing to do with the politics of the moment right now, and that has nothing to do with the really important storming Normandy Beach moment that we're now in the midst of, and the job that we have to do by election day. Like, that has nothing to do with so if you've got some issues because something happened to you, that has nothing to do with the politics right now. Like, there's two separate things. It's apples and oranges. So it's just these irresponsible discussions, and very unflattering and dangerous discussions, condemning the whole of black men for something that the whole of black men did not do. And so, there are consequences for it. There have been consequences for that conversation over the past 4 years. And it's brought us to this point where now Democrats are scrambling for black men, because now you have a higher number of black male voters, or a higher percentage of black male voters appear to be anti-Biden than their white male voter counterparts, as Stefan Hankin of Lincoln Park Strategies was telling us with the analysis and the assessments that he's been doing. I am concerned about that. I don't know what's going. Of course, I don't know what's going through the minds of idiotic brothers who want to go that route and support Donald Trump. Like, because clearly the current president is not only anti-black, his decisions have prompted black public health and economic genocide. And that's very clear. So, but I also understand, because I see the numbers, I also understand that the vast majority of black men, particularly eligible black men who are registered and ready or have already voted are doing the responsible thing. Full stop on that. And so, and they did the responsible thing in 2016. Yes, sisters stepped up to the, the majority. There were more sisters who stepped up to the plate at that moment in 2016 than brothers. You had a higher percentage of black women, and black women do take the lead as far as black voting bloc behavior. But there's no such, people want to talk about the black electorate and the black voting bloc, and they want to talk about, they want Democrats to cater, particularly the presidential campaign like Biden's, and also these Senate campaigns taking place. They want, and rightfully so, the black electorate expects, the black community expects Democrats to work for their votes, to cater and tailor messaging to black interests and black agenda interests. But then we want to have a discussion about some of us out there, not all of us, but some of us out there want to have a discussion where we split up the black vote, where we have half a black vote. You can't half step on a black vote. So there's no, where we had all this emphasis on just black women voters and their performance over the past several years, and it was as if black men voters up until now, like a month out, now suddenly black men voters exist. Like, no, there's no such thing. There was never such a thing as half a black vote. Can't half step. Like Big Daddy Kane, ain't no half step in here, y'all. And so now, people are, the chickens are coming home to roost. And so I totally get it. If I was Joe Biden, or if I was managing Joe Biden's campaign, I'd be like, look at these numbers. Don't know about these black people here. We love them, but you know what? We're going to have to go strong. We're going to have to try to get these white votes. We're going to have to try to convert these white voters from 2016. We have no choice. Sorry, Joe. You okay with that, Joe? Hey, you know what? I'm seeing the numbers here, man. Like, we're going to get the majority of black voters, but it's a lot of black voters over here on the side can't make up their damn minds. So what do? Yeah, you're going to have to go. You go strong. You go in strong on, for white vote. You got to win. You got to win. So, and then, you win the election, and then hopefully everything will shake out. Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, they seem like the type of folks, they're not petty. They're not petty like the current president, who rejects federal emergency funding for a whole state that just went through apocalyptic fires just because it didn't vote for him in 2016. So they don't seem like those type of petty people once they get to the point of governance. And so, but obviously there's going to be some honest conversations which will need to be had if they do win this thing with the black community, to ensure that they don't run into those types of issues politically in 2022 and 2024. All right, let me go to Reverend Bunkley out of South Philly, who's calling in for a reality check.
Good morning, Brother Charles. This is calling in one black preacher's opinion.
All right. Yes, sir. How you doing? Good morning.
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. You took a lot of my thoughts already, but let me say this first. One of the things I'm learning is not always what you say, it's how you say it, and then on the other hand, regardless of what you say, some folks just want to argue with you. Now, having said that, sometimes we, as black folks, we get really naive, and and we fall into, and right now a lot of us are falling into let's beat up, black men bandwagon. It's sort of in vogue. Okay, but what we forget, and you touched on it just a little bit. What we forget or don't understand is that next to black women, black men were the largest of the voting bloc for Hillary Clinton in 2016. Nobody else was even close. It wasn't like
nobody else was.
Next to black women, I forget the exact statistic, I think it was 95%. But black men were in the high 70s. Nobody else was even close.
No, in fact, black men, 83% of black men voted, black male voters in that 2016 election voted for Hillary Clinton. So 82% of black male voters voted for Clinton. 94% of black women voted for Clinton. So yeah, exactly. They were second to black women. Exactly.
Second to, out of everybody. Out of everybody. So it's not
out of everybody. Exactly. So when you compare Latino men, just 63%. Why aren't y'all getting on Latino men? Or Latino women was just 69%. Get on them. Get on their case. Why y'all getting on brother's case for? What gall does Jamila Hill have getting on brother's case like that. I'm sorry, Reverend. Go ahead.
It's an artificial issue. Now, this real
It
quick.
is.
On the three prominent brothers that sort of putting energy to this conversation. Now, with Kanye is a little off. I mean, in my opinion, he's got some issues. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm not going to be hard on him. 50 Cent.
No, be hard on him. Be hard on him. But go ahead.
50 Cent to me is he's just a sellout. Okay. Yeah. Now Ice Cube at another time with different people, I might understand him saying we need both sides. But DJT and the boys have already showed their hand. They've already demonstrated over and over again their contempt for black people. And he is an habitual liar who will turn on even his most staunch supporters.
Yeah.
So this is not the time for this naive nonsense, if it's naive nonsense, and he's not a complete sellout too.
Yeah.
So but we have to hold the fort and don't fall into the trap. Every time I turn on the radio or look at TV, it's this thing about black men.
Yeah.
And on every corner, it's like we are the pits of the earth.
Yeah.
Like we don't support black women. Like we don't support our family. And yes, more of us should. But to be honest, all the black men that I deal with take care of their families. Now maybe I'm living in a bubble. I don't know. But any black man that I've ever had my hands on take care of their children. So one of the things we got to do, and you've already touched on it, and we coming into a season, I'm praying and I'm working towards Joe winning this thing, not because I'm emotionally attached to him,
right,
but because it's our best shot. It's not nothing
right.
to the two people. It's our best shot. One last thing is we talk about this false equivalent between the crime bill and this white supremacist in the White House. What we fail to understand or do our research is that because of the time and the viciousness of the things that was happening in the hood, that, basically across the country, but black politicians, black families were pushing this whole crime bill thing.
Yeah.
Not naively and not looking at the fine print about when they put these bills into place, all they're going to come down on is on us. Everything we do is criminal, but when they do it, it's a medical issue. Yeah. We got to get ready. We got to finish this campaign strong. We got to get Biden in there, and then once we get Biden in there, it's not that the job is not over. The job just begun.
Right. That's true. That's true. Reverend, I got to let you go. Thank you. I want to make sure I bring in these other calls. But then there's very good points, solid points from Reverend Bonkley. I appreciate you, too. I'm going to reach back to you as well on that tree effort. Let me go to Maurice out of Southwest calling in for a reality check. Maurice?
Yeah, the Reverend before me, man, he hit it right on the nose. But, all politics is local. You know that, Charles, right?
Right. Mm-hmm.
Now, if you don't know who you want to vote for now, ain't nothing I can say for you. You ain't convinced on what we should do as black people. I ain't got nothing to say to you. You don't know by now. From day one, the man showed you this hand, and if you can't see it, you're blinder than me, and I'm blind. So let's get that straight. But, I'm going to say something about city council and this tax abatement thing.
Go ahead.
I know that's going to be your next subject, but I want to get in early.
Yeah, sure.
Now,
go ahead.
I'm telling you right now, anybody, and we got a lot of false prophets on this station, that trying to defend anybody in city council over this nonsense is crazy. Yeah. A lot of people don't understand that tax abatement, gentrification, and murder are all on the same side of the road. You have murder to get people to move out of their properties. You have gentrification to get black people out of their properties. You have city council who is 85% black or maybe more, are not doing anything for the black residents of Philadelphia. And I don't know why people can't get that in their head. We got state reps that's running for office right now that haven't come on the shows and say, vote for me, because they know in the primaries they already been elected. They don't even have to come out and say nothing because you're just going to vote for them. You're not going to vote for a Republican. You're just going to vote for whoever's name is on that Democratic ticket. See, we don't know the game because they stopped teaching us civics in in grammar school, so we have no idea on how the game is even being played. And I'm just so tired of people calling up here apologizing for our officials because they're public servants and for them not doing their job. Anytime you have a abatement, that means they're taking money from your children. Can't you understand that? That's why we got the worst. We should have the best schools in the world here in Pennsylvania because everybody wants to move here. They want to move, not Pennsylvania, Philadelphia. All the people from Washington, D.C. and New York are getting property that they will have to pay millions of dollars for pennies on the dollar here. So we should have the best school systems here, but they're using the money that we need to give our children to bring those folks in. And if you don't
they'll suddenly get the best schools, though, once the demographics change.
I'll leave it at that.
No, I appreciate you saying that, Maurice. You're right. I mean, the tax abatement really has to be reassessed, particularly when we're in the middle of a pandemic. Budgets are tight and slim. I mean, you have cities actually who have already voted for tax increases. Cities throughout the U.S., big cities, major cities, have voted for new taxes in the form of tax increases on businesses or temporarily withdrawing tax breaks, and even looking at renewed gas taxes as a way to make up for the very deep shortfall in municipal budgets. And so I'm not on here arguing for even more tax hikes on residents, but people are watching that and they're saying, why is there a tax abatement? Why is there tax relief in effect in a city that's been hit hard fiscally and residents who are struggling and going through even more intense poverty as a result of this pandemic? And then you're also, not just as a result of the pandemic, but the other public health emergency or crisis that's happening in Philadelphia, that is the violence crisis. It makes it, people are really reassessing the logic in that. There's not a whole lot of logic in that. Now, I guess the city council has called itself sort of splitting the difference here. Okay, we'll keep the tax abatement, but we're going to, maybe we'll pass a 1% construction tax and maybe that'll make up for it. But it's not. And that really has to be reassessed. The tax abatement, the whole purpose, now I'll go to break. I'm sorry, Jordan, real quick point here, because I think it must be said. The point of the tax abatement was to attract more population, more businesses, but especially more residents, more population to try to grow the city, to have it go through this population renaissance. That has not happened in Philadelphia. That we're actually having more people move to other places and increasing their population, like places like let's throw out Houston, Texas, for example. There are other cities are growing much faster than Philly. Philly actually, either the population growth has slowed down considerably, or before pandemic, it was actually slightly losing population. So it's not like the tax abatement is working. It's not working in terms of the city budget, and it's not working in terms of increasing. What's the purpose of it? What is the purpose of it if it's not fulfilling its original mission? I mean, that's a very key question to ask here. All right, let's go to break. And when we come back on the other side, I think we were scheduled to talk with Sharice Blackney, who is a historian for Bartram's Gardens. She's been doing some tremendous work exploring the Black history of the neighborhood surrounding Bartram's Gardens. So we're going to have a conversation with her next, an EcoWord conversation coming up next here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Hi, I'm Dr. Heidi Seropoulos. If you're on Medicare, you should know that many Independence Blue Cross Medicare Advantage plans have a $0 copay for primary care physician visits and telemedicine medical doctor visits. All our plans have $0 in-network COVID-19 testing and treatment and the largest network of doctors and hospitals in our area.
Call 833-848-0762 today. TTY-TDD 711, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Or visit us online at ibxmedicare.com/doctors. Independence Blue Cross offers Medicare Advantage plans with a Medicare contract. Enrollment in Independence Medicare Advantage plans depends upon contract renewal. Independence Blue Cross offers products through its subsidiaries Independence Hospital Indemnity Plan, Keystone Health Plan East, and QCC Insurance Company, independent licensees of the Blue Cross and Blue Shield Association.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend, we created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, trying to work people more than 8 hours without overtime, trying to work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
4 years ago, Donald Trump asked Black America a simple question. Asked us, what do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
Since then, we've seen a rise in racial violence and white supremacy, an increase in poverty.
You're living in poverty, your schools are no good, you have no jobs.
While giving tax cuts to the rich. 200,000 dead from COVID, 1 in 5 are Black. We've lost our jobs, our businesses, our dignity, and even our lives. And he, Trump, dares to ask, what the hell do you have to lose?
What the hell do you have to lose?
Well, Mr. President, damn near everything. After 4 years of Trump, ask yourself, Black America, are you better off? Vote for change.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check. It's Reality Check Wednesday, midday here on WURD, the home of Black Talk Media, also the home of EcoWord, our environmental justice journalism project. For more information, go to ecoword.com. Feel free to go there at your convenience, and more content on tap very soon to be updated at ecoword.com. And occasionally we have our EcoWord segments, particularly with partners such as Bartram's Garden, one of our fantastic and long time, since the beginning, the inception of EcoWord partners. For more information, go to bartramsgarden.org. Bartram's Garden also has a research historian, did some wonderful work and actually compiled that into a collection, a book at the end of 2017 entitled Stories We Know. And Sharice Blackney, research historian who looked at the Black history of Bartram's Garden and also the Black history of communities, of Black communities in Philadelphia, not just in the 20th or 21st century, but as far back as the 18th and 19th century, those communities that lived around Bartram's Garden and also struggled there and still struggle to this day there. But beautiful work that Sharice did. So it's a pleasure to have her on here joining us to talk more about it here on Reality Check, here for our EcoWord segment. Sharice, how are you doing? Good morning.
Morning, Charles. I'm great. How are you?
All right, good. So, stories we know, and stories we know is not just the end of it. There's been a lot of work that you've been doing for Bartram's Garden, looking at the Black history of it and the Black history around it. What prompted that research in the first place?
Well, the initial project started because there was a transcript of the 1790 census. The first federal census taken was done in 1790, instructed by Thomas Jefferson. And so the 1790 census showed that there was a free Black person living at Bartram's Garden, and there were no documents in the archives of Bartram's Garden, which they have very extensive archives. And for there to be no documentation that tells you anything about this person was a bit bothersome, of course, to the board of Bartram's Garden, as well as the staff and the archivist at Bartram's. And so they partnered with Mural Arts, and that partnership led to bringing on board a historian to see if someone could do some archival digging to find out more about that individual. Unfortunately, this phase of the research, even going into the second phase, only brought up more threads to pull, nothing specific about this person, but what comes out of that one search turns into really an in-depth look at the development of the Black community around the garden.
How expansive was that Black community? We know we see the Black community around Bartram's Garden. We see the Black community that also contributes to the effort that is known as Bartram's Garden. But just describe how expansive that community was, particularly as we're going back. You went back as far as the 18th century, as far as the 1700s, and then why is that history, even to this day, why is that important to capture for you?
Well, I think it's twofold. So on one hand, looking at how expansive this community was in that time, it's a little difficult to get to pinpoint it really with the late 1700s. But once you get into roughly the mid 1800s, you start to see a paper trail of being able to really document the Black community in that area or in the Southwest area. There is an 1847 census. It was the Philadelphia African American Census, and it was done by the Society of Friends. And it's been digitized by Swarthmore College, so it's available online if people would like to go and maybe check it out for themselves, or maybe search for family they know if they know they have roots in the area. But I think that it was incredibly important, considering looking at the community at that time. So many of the issues that Black people in Southwest Philadelphia were facing in that time period are still very relevant to us. Still a lot of issues that need to be addressed in the Black community now. That census brings up data where we can look at education, we can look at housing, we can look at labor, wages, the gendered nature of income. We can also look at specifically when you look at the area around Bartram's, you can look at the prison industrial complex and how it gets started in that time period. One of John Bartram's relatives, his grandson, George Bartram, was actually an inspector for the prison. And so we get to really look at how the Black population in the area is changing. But on top of that, we're looking at the Black population of inmates and how it's disproportionately Black during the time where John Bartram's grandson is one of the inspectors of the prison. And so this project brings up so many things that I think, again, are still relevant issues for us to discuss.
Yeah, talk about the process too, because I've always found the historical research, archiving, archaeology. I've always found that space so fascinating when I was younger, and I had a class at the school that I was going to at the time, the middle school I was going to at the time, and so we did some sort of small class or low key. I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't like we had like a professional archaeologist who came in. I don't know if they were from Penn or Temple. I can't quite recall, but we did some archaeological work around the spaces. It's a Quaker school, and it's like one of the oldest grade schools in the country. So there's a lot of there's an old Quaker cemetery, etc. And at one point I was like, oh, I'd love to get into this maybe as a profession when I grow up. But talk about that process, which you have to go through to collect all this information and data It's not easy. It's not easy work. I mean, it's very laborious work and it's very time consuming, but there's just that big reward at the end.
Yeah, absolutely. First, I have to say I love that you were doing that in middle school, because it's definitely around the age where I was thinking history might be a little boring, but I think that was probably more so how it was presented to me rather than being actually boring. But it was a labor of love for sure. Most of it started with trying to move from the census record for the present. And so that has you checking every local archive and seeing if they have anything relevant, which most of what I found that was relevant to Southwest Philadelphia was housed at the Historical Society of Pennsylvania. And while they don't have as much as I would love digitized, they do have a really large collection of digitized documents. But most of what I needed, you would have to go on site to visit. It was the Pennsylvania Abolition Society's collection. And it's about 80 to 81 boxes of just documents on documents on documents. There's huge books of manumission records. There's receipts.
And I'm sorry, Shanice, let me cut you off. When you say manumission, some listeners might not know what you mean. What is that exactly?
Sorry, so manumission documents are the equivalent to emancipation papers.
Got it.
Essentially documents that show who is being freed from slavery, who they're being freed by, and it gives dates. But those records were really important when we were looking at the Southwest community and noticing that there was a mix in terms of legal status. You had free people living with enslaved people who were living with people who had been enslaved but manumitted in another state and then found their way to Philadelphia. So that collection, that process was really just a lot of spreadsheets and a lot of pictures being taken to just sort of comb through things over time and pull out as many details as possible.
Wow, yeah, it's some really important work. You have some. It's not just you have the 2017 project, the stories we know, and that all of folks can go to bartramsgarden.org and look for stories we know. This is this booklet that's available to the public, and it's also available that you can purchase it at Bartram's Garden. Well, obviously we're in pandemic mode, so going to Bartram's Garden is a bit limited, but you can go online to bartramsgarden.org and look for Stories You Know by Sharice Blackney, who is the research historian who pulled this together, and artist Aislinn Pentecost Farron, I think, was the editor as well. But you've done some other work. There's some more Stories We Know vignettes. You talk about slavery, freedom in Oak Street, life on Oak Street, this thriving black community in parts of King Sessing and Southwest Philly, and what they had to go through, the amount of money they put together combined. I think it was in one of your vignettes in 1847. I didn't know this until I read about slavery and life on Oak Street. It's about $65,000 combined for that. And it's a lot of money at that time, 1847, combined for those enslaved black people to purchase their freedom at that time. So are we expecting more vignettes from you?
Yes. So there are going to be two additional vignettes. One is on, there is Torbert Ganges, who he is a descendant of the Ganges Africans who were brought to Philadelphia on an illegal, or they were intercepted by the USS Ganges, the naval ship, and they were on an illegal slave ship. And so they're brought to Philadelphia more so to protect them than anything. However, they end up signed into indentured servitude contracts, which is essentially just another form of not being free. But Torbert is a descendant of them. So his father would have been the son of one of the original Ganges Africans. and he is a Civil War veteran. He's a very interesting character. There's so much to his story, but that's going to be one of the vignettes. And then the final vignette is on John Bartram and abolitionism versus anti-slavery advocacy, where we look at the legacy of John Bartram related to slavery, and we try to ask some really difficult questions and sort of look through the documents that he left behind, because almost every person leaves a paper trail. However, the paper trail is very different when you look at white historical figures and try to look at the history of Black people and what they left behind. And so John Bartram left behind a ton of archival evidence, and we basically used that to look at his perspective of Black people, of slavery, and sort of challenge some of the existing historical narrative surrounding John Bartram and race.
Yeah, this is just fascinating work. I highly recommend people check it out. Shanice, unfortunately, we ran out of time, so we got to have you back at some point to talk more about it, Sharice Blackney, and hopefully we'll see more of it in person once we get on the other side of this current apocalypse. But you will actually get to see everything in person, see you in person, and talk more about it. Sharice Blackney is research historian for Bartram's Garden. She's been doing some outstanding work here, essential work, looking at the history of Black people at and around Bartram's Garden. Go to bartramsgarden.org to look at that, to read it. It's great work. I think it's a great history lesson for any Black household, particularly Black households in Philadelphia. So definitely get your young person to also look at this. She's the author of the booklet called Stories We Know and Other Vignettes, all available at bartramsgarden.org. Sharice, thanks so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thanks for this work. All right, I'm looking forward to more. Let's take a break, and when we come back, phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's just take a break, and we'll be right back.
The time is now to put an end to the chronic incompetence of Donald Trump and his League of Liars. Donald Trump makes a mockery of the institution of the presidency. He's polarized our country, and his dangerous policies must not continue. Joe Biden has the character, empathy, and experience to lead us through these challenging times. He helped lead the nation out of the 2008 financial crisis into the longest period of economic growth in our history, and he can do it again. As president, he will heal divisions and unite us around the shared values of justice. He'll create opportunities for quality education and good-paying jobs, and he'll build on the Affordable Care Act, not tear it down. While Donald Trump thinks coronavirus and climate change are a hoax, Joe Biden already has a coronavirus recovery plan and a strategy to create more jobs while also tackling the climate crisis. Vote for a president who will stand on the right side of history. Vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris. Paid for by Black PAC and Priorities USA Action. BlackPAC.com and PrioritiesUSAAction.org, which are responsible for the content of this advertising. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
JD's Auto Body and Painting is hiring talent for the following positions: assembler, preferably 2 to 3 years experience, able to tear down and reassemble all make and model cars. Painter, must have at least 5 years overall painting experience, including experience in water-based paint and able to prep cars for paint jobs. Auto Body Technician, looking for an A or B technician, must have at least 5 years experience repairing cars. Please send your resume to JD's Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net. That's JDS Auto Body and Painting at Comcast.net, or call 215-848-5949 for more details. JD's Auto Body and Painting is an equal opportunity employer.
Tune in this Saturday from 5 to 6 p.m. for the Islam Today show, with a perspective on moral guidance and Islamic principles and values.
Hello? Hey, you've been on my mind, so I'm just calling to check in. Oh, we're holding up well here in Pennsylvania. Just trying to stay safe and figuring out if we should vote in person or by mail. We like going to the polls.
Yeah?
You never miss an election.
And you know we're not missing this year either, and neither should you. But which way is the safest?
Well, remember that valuable information you got from AARP about COVID-19? Mom even had me read it.
Yeah, that was good info.
AARP has up-to-date voting information for 50-plus voters in every state. It's right there at aarp.org/election2020.
Oh, I got it. aarp.org/election2020. I love having the answers before your mama.
Pops, you know what happens when you try to show out.
Yeah, you probably right about that.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back. Phone lines are open. 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. Toll free, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Speaking of state legislative elections, just recently, there's this magazine. It's a magazine for a lot of political insiders like myself who read it, called National Journal. They have something called the Hotline, and the Pennsylvania House showed up on a list of state capital or state legislative races to watch. That is, so the Pennsylvania House. Pennsylvania Senate didn't show up on that, even though you have both the Pennsylvania House and the Pennsylvania Senate are both up for grabs, but the Hotline put out a list of state legislative chambers most likely to flip, and the Pennsylvania House made that list. At the top of that list was the Minnesota Senate, then both the Arizona House and the Arizona Senate expected to flip. These are state legislative races expected to flip from Republican to Democrat. The Texas House ranked 4, Iowa House ranked 5, Michigan House ranked 6, then both North Carolina Senate and North Carolina House. Also, that U.S. Senate race down there is a big race to watch. That ranked 7. The Pennsylvania, it ranked 7 and 8 actually. North Carolina Senate ranking 7, the North Carolina House ranking 8, and the Pennsylvania House is now ranking 9 as a potential state legislative chamber to flip from Republican to Democrat. Remember, Democrats had netted 10 seats during the 2018 elections, now it's like 110 Republicans to 93 Democrats. So Democrats just need 9 seats to flip the chamber, and so there are pickup opportunities for state Democrats in the Philadelphia suburbs, and there are like 5 Republican incumbents in the Philadelphia suburbs that represent districts that Hillary Clinton carried in 2016. There are also some competitive races, competitive state legislative or state house races in the Harrisburg suburbs. There's about 3 seats that were just narrowly went for Republicans in 2018, and so Biden turnout is going to be key in those areas. There, you also have, but the only other thing is, Democrats playing a lot of defense in districts in the Scranton-Wilkes-Barre region and also blue-collar Pittsburgh suburbs. Democrats winning narrowly in 2018 in seats based around Democratic stronghold of Johnstown, the former Democratic stronghold of Johnstown, and also Upper Bucks County, which is closer to Allentown than Philly. So that's kind of where things are. The state Senate is in play, but it's not looked at as most likely to flip. So that's kind of the state of things. But these are the seats that and Republicans, Democrats need to flip 4 seats in the Senate, in the state Senate. There are 3 seats that are particularly vulnerable that even Republicans in Pennsylvania have acknowledged. District 9 in Delaware County, District 15 in Harrisburg, and District 49 in Erie. District 13, which is based in Lancaster, is the only other seat on the map. And if that flips, then yeah, it could be, it'll be all done for Republicans in Pennsylvania. So State House, Pennsylvania State House, most likely to flip, at least according to Hotline and National Journal. That just dropped, just came out. Pennsylvania State House most likely to flip from Republican to Democrat. The Pennsylvania State Senate not seen as likely to flip, but big but on that, it is in play. It is a hot race to watch. Those are the races to watch. And then coming in 10 is the Georgia House, the Georgia State House, looking like another spot where it could flip. Let me go to Cliff in Connecticut, who's calling for a reality check. Cliff?
Hey, Brother Charles, thanks for taking my call. Listen, I'll get right to the point. I totally understand that all politics starts locally. So, and with that being said, let me add that local politics, as well as state politics, are determined by the popular vote. So, getting to the Electoral College, I know we kind of discussed this before, but the presidency is the only position that people vote not directly for the president, but for electors that then go in December and they cast their vote for the president. So now my point is that in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 1, I'm just saying, I could be wrong, but it states, and this is the question I'm asking, it states that the elector shall, use the word shall, S-H-A-L-L. What does shall mean in terms of the Constitution? Are they obligated to represent the voters, or do they have a right, and will they, which they did before, and give you a perfect case point, 2016, Colin Powell got 3 electoral votes. He was nowhere near as a candidate because you had Trump and you had Hillary Clinton. So this year, the Supreme Court decided to rule that the electors, the representatives, must or shall represent the will of the people. So can you explain that? Do you understand my question and the subject matter I'm speaking of? Does that make sense?
I'm familiar with the Supreme Court case. I'm a little bit, I don't know what your question is, though.
Well, but the question is the word shall. How does the word shall relate to the Constitution for legitimate reason? And if in fact, do these electors have to represent or vote the will of the people? Pennsylvania. If Pennsylvania wins, if Biden wins Pennsylvania, how many electors do you have? 20, 15, or whatever? Well, whatever number you have. Do they actually, all of them, have to vote for Biden if Pennsylvania wins? Can they split their vote?
It's a good question. Based on that Supreme Court, I don't think so.
And I'll listen to your response, brother.
Yeah, I don't think so. And let me, and the only reason I'm going to kind of punt on this until a little bit later on in the program, Cliff, is just because I'm running on time and I got a couple other callers. But let me, and because the explanation on where the response I'm going to give might be a little bit elongated, and I want to make sure I bring in Eugene from Maryland, who's calling for a reality check. But I am going to answer it a little bit later on, Cliff. Go ahead, Mr. Eugene.
Charles and radio listening audience, we're going to talk national right now. I understand that Barack Obama will be in Philadelphia today.
Right.
So I'd like for people to put a pin in that. I'm going to come back to that. The second person that I'd like for you to put a pin next to is Colin Kaepernick. Now, one of the reasons that I want you to focus on Barack Obama is that I am so pleased to have written a book on Barack Obama for young kids. And the last time I heard you, you talked about literacy there in Philadelphia. This book is called Words Crossing Across, Word Search on Barack Obama.
Yeah.
The book is designed to improve reading, writing, and verbal skills. I sent you a copy of it. You'll probably get it in a couple of days. Now, so much for Mr. Barack Obama. I'm sure we're going to enjoy him. I have not met him, but I've met Michelle, and I wrote a book on her also. All of my books are on Amazon.com. So let's go to Colin Kaepernick. You know that I am an evolutionary elder. 3 evolutionary elders, Larry Sagan, Walt Carr, who used to live there in Philadelphia, and I embarked on this mission to get Colin Kaepernick to register and vote. So if he registered and vote, maybe other people will be as well. Now,
might be kind of late. it might be kind of late in the game because I mean we have those voter registration deadlines have already happened, but it would be. Well, I don't know what state he's in. I assume he's in New York, right? But I mean, I wrote Colin Kaepernick off a long time ago because I'm like, you can't be in the cause and the struggle, fam. You out there not registered and not voting. Like I don't get that.
Okay, so let me finish, please.
Yeah.
Walt Carr, a nationally known black cartoonist who wrote for Ebony. I mean, who did cartoons for Ebony magazine. He's a syndicated columnist now from he was there in Philadelphia for some years now. He's in Columbia, Maryland. Did a cartoon that is being circulated all over the United States now with Colin Kaepernick kneeling next to a big sign saying vote. Now, that doesn't mean that he has registered to vote, but it suggests to other people that here I am, and Walt Carr did a beautiful job with this. Here I am. Maybe you should vote. So I just wanted to share that with you this morning, your listening audience. It may be too late to register and vote if he's not already. I understand in 2016 he had not registered to vote.
Yeah.
But I wanted to share this, and if it's not too late, you should check out an email that was sent to you. And it has a cartoon of the cartoon that was drawn by Walter Carr. So what do you think about that?
Absolutely, yeah. I think I did see that cartoon. I did see that cartoon, Mr. Eugene, if I'm not mistaken, and I did capture that. So that's something I'll share. For listening, my hat goes off to you. I definitely don't have the patience with Colin Kaepernick or others like him who are like being very vocal for these major causes and won't do the very basic like voting and won't encourage other people to vote. I wrote him off like a few years ago, because I'm like, what's the point? And so, but I really have much respect to you and your colleague for doing that work and trying to, trigger or prompt him to do that. And I know you've been doing the work as far as the Black National Anthem is concerned. Very successful work indeed, because now they're playing it at games. But it's not just Colin Kaepernick, it's these athletes. We have a situation like in the NFL, 80%, what we know, 80%, maybe a little bit more of NFL players not registered to vote, not voting. And so I can only imagine, I don't have the official numbers for NBA players, and I don't appreciate that. Like all throughout the NBA playoffs, well, up throughout the NBA games in the bubble, they're wearing all these political statements on their jerseys, and the vast majority of them, and LeBron James, and that's why I love LeBron James. I have much respect for LeBron James. LeBron James put him on the spot. He's like, y'all want to make all these big statements, and you want to be like on the front line of this cause. He's like, are you registered to vote? He put him on the spot about that. I hope that significantly increased the number of black players in the NBA registered to vote and voting. I do not want to see any more athletes doing PSAs about voting and they're not even registered and they're not planning to vote. And so I just lost total respect for Colin Kaepernick on that point. I've been vocal about that before, like until he gets registered. Like register, dude. Like until then, what struggle are you part of? But I appreciate you, Mr. Eugene. I'm sorry, I got to go to break. I'm taking a little bit of time here. Thanks, Jordan. I know, sorry about that. Let me take a break, and then when we come back on the other side, having another EcoWord segment with Shawanda Spivey, who's environmental education planner for the Philadelphia Water Department. She's coming up next here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Joe Biden fought hard to pass Obamacare. It gave over 20 million Americans access to health care and protected people with pre-existing conditions from greedy insurance companies. But Trump and Republicans want to get rid of it. Even in the middle of a pandemic, we can't let that happen. Protect your health care. Vote Biden. Our lives depend on it.
Paid for by AFSCME People, which is responsible for the content of this ad. AFSCMEPeople.org. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee.
Ladies and gentlemen, are you sick of trying to cut and style your own hair and the rest of your family? Well, McLean's Unisex Salon in Mount Airy is open for business. We've been a neighborhood institution for more than 50 years, with styles for men, women, and kids. We have new partitions and social distancing measures to keep everyone safe while keeping the welcoming feel you've come to expect from your neighborhood shop. Visit us online at mcleansunisex.com or call now to make an appointment, 215-844-9826.
Enterprise Exterminators, located 4943 Wayne Avenue, specializing in lantern flies, termites, bed bugs, fleas, mice, and roaches. Do-it-yourself kits are available. Call now, 215-849-7070. Tune in this Saturday at 10 a.m. for the Educational Pulse with the School District of Philadelphia with host Dr. William Haidt.
4 years ago, Donald Trump asked Black America a simple question. Asked us, what do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
Since then, we've seen a rise in racial violence and white supremacy, an increase in poverty.
You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs.
While giving tax cuts to the rich. 200,000 dead from COVID, 1 in 5 are Black. We've lost our jobs, our businesses, our dignity, and even our lives. And he, Trump, dares to ask, what the hell do you have to lose?
What the hell do you have to lose?
Well, Mr. President, damn near everything. After 4 years of Trump, ask yourself, Black America, are you better off? Vote for change.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity, inclusion, compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work. Lifting every voice till earth and heaven ring. This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Black Talk Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDRadio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check here on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WordRadio.com, Word TV. We are in our midweek edition. It's our Wednesday edition of Reality Check here. Go to @EllisonReport on Twitter.com, #RealityCheck for more conversation, more insights there. #Word on politics, more to come there. We are now in another EcoWord segment, EcoWord.com for more there. And joining us now is Shawanda Spivey. She is an environmental education planner for the Philadelphia Water Department. So obviously you go to phil.gov, learn more about the Philadelphia Water Department, and Shawanda here to talk about what she does. What is meant by environmental education planner, what her mission is, and how that helps the overall mission of the Water Department. Shawanda, how are you doing?
I'm well. How are you? Thank you so much for having me as a guest this morning or early afternoon.
Right. We headed into the afternoon. No, we really appreciate your time. What is that exactly? What is that role, environmental education planner? What does that mean?
So my role is kind of nebulous, meaning that I wear a lot of hats. I do a lot of things. So obviously, I help plan environmental education campaigns. I help plan and facilitate environmental educational workshops for young people. I also support environmental stewardship initiatives throughout the city. I work with a lot of city partners like the Office of Sustainability, the Streets Department, recycling, and we have a collaborative style of working where we are just committed to sharing resources and also partnering with community members and acting as like a liaison to community members, and also hearing them out as far as the environmental issues that are most pressing for them.
I'm sure you've had to be a bit creative about that education and outreach piece during pandemic. What are some? I'm sure you have to be very creative and innovative about the way you go about that, because that work still it has to be done. what are some of the initiatives and some of the programs that are taking place now, things that you're focused on?
So during at the beginning of all of this, we started just creating activities for parents or caregivers to do with their children, and we were posting those on the Water Department's social media. We were also supporting Fairmont Waterworks. Brief sidebar here. A lot of folks might not be aware that the Water Department has a partnership with Fairmont Waterworks, and Fairmont Waterworks is pretty much our arm of education. And so we were supporting a lot of their programming, just doing a lot of reposting of the activities and little snippets of the workshops that they've facilitated, and just like, being a resource to teachers, being a resource to caregivers, trying to do our part in just helping folks, find a way to keep their children or the young people in their families occupied. And then also, so once the restrictions kind of let up a bit, we were able to facilitate some in-person programming, of course, incorporating the social distancing mandates, and we have to cap the amount of participants. Also, we were able to pull off one of our annual festivals, the Delaware River Festival. Normally, thousands of people attend this event. However,
that's right.
Because of what's going on, that wasn't possible. But what we did, we created a week-long series of virtual programming. We had our partners have the opportunity to present their own programming. We had like a social media. We had some of our partners take over the festival's Instagram, just sharing a bit more about what they do and some of their projects and how people can get involved. So, the nature of my job is just being able to pivot, but, the pandemic has, helped me strengthen my ability to pivot.
Right,
so,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, normally when we think of water, right, and particularly when we think of the type of water that's city-run or city-managed, we typically think of it as something that we drink and bathe in, and also as something we have to pay for. It's a bill, right? And so how do you transcend that, right? How do you, through the education, through what you're doing through these initiatives and programs, what's the tenor of the conversation need to be for people to understand that we have to think about this as much more. We have to think about water as something much more than either what's bottled up, what we bathe in, or what we pay for in a bill.
So the way that we frame our conversations, or like the tenets of our education and outreach, is that we okay, so let me just run through those really quickly. So what the Water Department does, what Philly Water does, obviously we supply tap water and just water to potable water to the citizens of Philadelphia. We also treat and manage wastewater. So, a lot of times folks think that we don't take into consideration what happens to that water, what happens to that water after I'm done brushing my teeth, what happens to that water after I'm done washing the dishes, what happens to that water, after I'm done in the shower. That water has to go somewhere. So in addition to supplying you with clean water, we also take your wastewater, and we have to treat the wastewater before we send it back to the river. And then in addition to that, we also manage stormwater. And so our stormwater management program, or Green City Clean Waters, is nationally renowned. So Philadelphia, like any other major city, we have a lot of impervious surfaces, meaning, there's a lot of concrete, and with gentrification, there's an increase of impervious surfaces. So why that's a concern for the Water Department is with so much concrete, with concrete and the continuing development in the city, you're increasing the amount of surfaces that water can't penetrate. So when we have intense rainstorms or these tropical storms, that water isn't able to seep into the ground as it would in a rural area or a suburban area. So that causes flooding. So what we've done is we have a division called Green Storm Water Infrastructure, and so Green Storm Water Infrastructure, that's just the fancy name for the natural mechanisms that you can use and create to manage stormwater runoff. And so we have there are rain gardens, there are bump outs, there are tree trenches. A lot of times, we're just walking around and we don't pay these things any mind. But rain gardens, tree trenches, and curved bump outs, what they do is during intense rain events or storms, or just whenever it's raining in general, the GSI, the Green Storm Water Infrastructure, what it does is it collects that water. It collects that water and it prevents flooding. But also when it collects the water, it through the soil and the other sediments, that water is able to be filtered. And once it's able to be filtered, it slowly percolates and goes back into the groundwater reservoir or the water table. So a lot of times, folks, anyone, just your, your daily, just normal habits or whatever, and you pass these, these medians and what just look like city beautification initiatives. They do serve an aesthetic purpose, but also they serve a purpose for stormwater management, and they help us prevent flooding.
Yeah, that is the thing I meant to ask you too, and I appreciate you raising that about stormwater management, because it's my understanding that the Philadelphia Water Department Stormwater Management Program is like one of the most promising or most innovative in the country. And because I remember making that point, there was a fellow or a researcher that we had on this program at some point from Brookings, this prominent global think tank, and sometimes we bring their people on this program, and he was aware of it. He had even written a whole study on stormwater management in municipalities, and I took him to task for that. I said, you didn't mention Philly. He's like, you know what? He's like, I should have. And so at some point that'll probably come up, because he's like, they're doing some really innovative, almost pioneering work as far as stormwater management. To a couple of questions here too, Shwana. One is that Philly is becoming more and more of a flood zone because of rising sea levels and climate crisis taking effect. And so can the Philadelphia Water Department, can that Stormwater Management Division, can't it keep up with that? Because I'm seeing some really distressing data as far as the amount of Philly becoming a really intense flood zone over the next, as we even look over the next 20 years. The flooding is going to become even more substantial and more intense. It's going to displace a lot of people. So can this stormwater management program be scaled up in time to manage to handle that?
So I think when people think of the water department or just any utility, or in this case, water utility, you only, in your mind, when you think of the employees, the staff, you only think of folks that come out and do maintenance, and people that do that are involved in construction and infrastructure repair and things like that. The water department employs hundreds of scientists, engineers, planners, researchers, and this is something that we are working on. It's all hands on deck, as far as how we plan to be proactive. There's also there's also a climate change task force, and So again, this issue is multifaceted, and also we can't ignore the political climate that we live in. The person who's sits in the White House, doesn't use science, or encourage citizens of this country to trust scientists. And there's conservatives are reluctant to admit that climate change is a real thing. So what this is going to require of the Philly Water Department and utilities across the nation is we're going to have to connect with community members, and we're going to have to connect with community members in order to fight climate change. We're going to have to allow community members their voices to be heard. We're going to have to do some boots on the ground grassroots outreach, and not just outreach in a way that, hey, I'm a scientist and I have all this formal education and all these advanced degrees, so you should listen to what I say. But culturally competent engagement where we are listening to the stories of folks in communities and how they've been affected by flooding and how they've been affected by climate change, and together we're creating solutions. So this is going to be an ongoing process from now until forever.
Yeah, I did think that's very important. And what about with that education component? Is there a relationship or partnership with for something like this with schools in the area, particularly Philadelphia Public Schools? Because I think we've talked a lot about how schools need to have more mandated or refresh on like mandatory civics lessons and financial literacy. Eco literacy, I think, mandated eco literacy, you don't see enough of it. I think that's really important. Are those partnerships there?
Yes, they are. So I mentioned Fairmount Waterworks before. So Waterworks has created a curriculum. It's called Understanding the Urban Watershed. And in that curriculum, the curriculum is centered on the experience of a young person that lives in the inner city. One of the challenges with environmental education or just doing this type of engagement with folks that live in the inner city, a lot of times we don't think that we live in nature. We don't think we think of nature as driving out to the Poconos or driving outside of the city. But Philadelphia is a watershed. Philadelphia is composed of several watersheds. Fairmount Park is one of the largest parks in the country. So when you're going to the Platte, you're in a park. You're in a green space. And so just helping young folks make that connection. That just because we have a lot of concrete doesn't mean that you can't have concrete and nature existing together. Also, Fairmount Waterworks does a lot of off-site programming. Before the pandemic, the educators would go to various schools and facilitate these workshops and talk about what a watershed is, talk about the differences between water hitting concrete and water and when water comes into contact with soil, doing watershed tours and things like that. So like I mentioned before, we're working to pivot all of those programs to where we can offer them virtually and also every now and occasionally offer like limited in-person programming. There's also oh my God, the acronym is escaping me. There's also an organization that is housed within the school district. It's called Green Schools. Oh my goodness. Yeah, the acronym and the name's escaping me. But there's also an effort within the school district to get young folks to make young folks aware of what green stormwater infrastructure is, and but more than that, like how their behavior and human behavior in general affects the environment, and then there are also opportunities for young people to get involved in stewardship projects. Stewardship projects like we have a storm drain marking program at the Water Department, and so what that is we print out these medallions for these stickers for the major watersheds in Philadelphia, and the purpose of the stickers is what the young folks do, or any group of people. They put the stickers on what folks call sewers, but we don't like call them sewers. We call them storm drains and inlets.
Yeah.
And so you put the stickers like on the curb near the inlet or near the storm drain. And the purpose of putting these stickers there is to convey the message that only water goes down the inlets and the storm drains.
Right.
Years ago, folks just saw, what we would normally call sewers. They just saw them as, additional trash cans.
Trash receptacles, right?
So
right.
We want to change that. We want to change that that thinking, and we want to change that behavior, because anything that goes into the storm drains and the inlets ultimately ends up in the river. And the Schuylkill and the Delaware, those are our sources for drinking water. So we want to let the citizens, let community members in Philadelphia know that our inlets are not trash cans. Water isn't this. I think a lot of people have this idea that water is just this ultimate solvent, meaning I could put anything in a large bottle of water and in a large body of water, and it'll just disappear or dissolve.
And that's an important point, I think, too, Shawanda, that people have to understand that to take care of the city space, the environment that we live in, it's a collective effort. There is a response. The city and the water department has an obligation to ensure that water is as prepared and clean as possible, right? I mean, you all know you have a legal fiduciary a policy obligation, regulatory obligation to make sure that happens. But, in order to make that job easier, to make that work, residents also have to do what they have to take care of the water. They got to take care of the environment. They also have to do what don't throw trash, because we've seen that problem, especially during pandemic, and trash piling up around stormwater drains or places or channels or conduits, people throwing trash in them or trash piling up. And it's and to me, a lot of this stuff is it's common sense. First of all, I mean, it should be sort of common sense, but this is just for me. Maybe it's just the way I was raised. I wouldn't want to see trash on my street or my sidewalk, or even at a stormwater drain to begin with. It's just unsightly. It's unseemly. Right. So you would think that people would just make that immediate, but some people don't. And so we really have to do that work double time and hard to make people understand. This is a collective job. Just don't rely on the water department and city hall to do it all by themselves. You guys have to do the heavy lifting. You get paid to do the heavy lift. It's a responsibility. But we also, there's things that we should be doing as daily habits to make that easier, not just for the water department, but make that easier for everyone else, and make sure that water is clean. That it's being taken care of and clean by the time it comes back to us in the form of either drinking water or water we cook with or water we bathe in. Shawan, I gotta let you go. It's a fascinating conversation. We gotta have more of it. Yeah, I gotta let you go.
Yeah, but I would love to come back and I can talk about this all day.
Yeah, I know you. I could tell. Yeah, I think we that's why we're gonna have you back. I appreciate this, because I think we take well, that was part of why we developed this WURD initiative, and it's been catching fire. I'm real happy. I think people and residents and listeners and the WURD family get it now. They get it. I remember, several years ago, starting Reality Check, started talking about the environment. Some people out there why are you talking about trees and things like that? It's no, this is our issue. This is our issue. People get it. And so I'm very proud of that effort, but it's more work we have to do, particularly for our young people, and making sure that this kind of conversation sticks. But Shawanda Spivey is Environmental Education Planner for Philadelphia Water Department. We'll definitely have her back on, and we'll talk more about water, because we don't want to take that for granted. Can't live without water. And so Shawanda Spivey doing that work. Thank you so much for your time, Shawanda. Really appreciate it this morning.
It's been a pleasure.
All right. Take care. We'll talk with you again. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we're talking with Taryn Walker of Context Media Group. We're going to continue that conversation about black men, about blaming black men, why we got to, stop doing that so much. Not everything that goes wrong is because of black men, especially elections. All right. So, but we do have to have a conversation of black men. Some of y'all brothers out there, though, this voting for Trump thing, we're not voting at all. Like, cut that out. But still, we need to talk about it. Terren Walker is coming up next here on Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Everyone has a different journey to their vote, but we all take the same steps. If you want to vote, register by October 19th. If you want to vote by mail, apply now and mail your ballot back as early as possible, before November 3rd. Or bring it to a satellite election office. If you want to vote in person, go to your polling location on November 3rd. However you want to vote, we'll help you find the way. Visit PhiladelphiaVotes.com.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. For testing hours and more information, visit jeffersonhealth.org/community testing.
Philadelphia, old, young, and all in between. We've got to get out and rock the vote in this election. We have the power to make a difference, but we cannot make that difference without your vote. Vote by mail or vote in person. Our vote is the voice that will save our lives. This message is sponsored by the Leon H. Sullivan Charitable Trust.
Hello, my name is Esteban Vera. I'm a proud union member and business manager of Labor's Local 57 in Philadelphia. I'd first like to thank every essential worker, union member that's working in the front lines day in and day out to keep us all Americans safe. Thank you so much. Now more than ever, it's so important that we get out to vote and make sure that we're registered to vote, that we get candidates in office that care about all Americans, not just corporations. We cannot let the last 4 years repeat itself. Our country cannot take no more. Our people cannot take no more. I beg everyone and plead to please get out to register to vote. Our lives, our children's lives, and our economy depends on it.
Don't forget to tune into Labor's Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. on WURD, WURD.
4 years ago, Donald Trump asked Black America a simple question. Asked us, what do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
Since then, we've seen a rise in racial violence and white supremacy, an increase in poverty.
You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs.
While giving tax cuts to the rich. 200,000 dead from COVID, 1 in 5 are black. We've lost our jobs, our businesses, our dignity, and even our lives. And he, Trump, dares to ask, what the hell do you have to lose?
What the hell do you have to lose?
Well, Mr. President, damn near everything. After 4 years of Trump, ask yourself, Black America, are you better off? Vote for change.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check. It's Reality Check midday, midweek. It's Reality Check Wednesday here on the home of Black Talk Media, WURD. We are 96.1 FM, 900 AM inside Philly proper, and of course throughout Philly, Greater Philly and the Delaware Valley. But beyond that, we are streaming live and robustly at WURD Radio, WURDradio.com. For those of you in the nation and throughout the world, many of you listening into the home of Black Talk Media, also at WURD TV. You're watching us live at WURD TV, Facebook.com/4WURD, also YouTube.com/onWURD. And if you're watching WURD TV, you're probably watching with us right now. Joining us, we're going to have him every week, is Terren Walker, who is founder, editor of Context Media Group, prominent thought leader, commentator, and also major advocate for brothers, major advocate for black men and brothers this week. I appreciate that work, and I appreciate that conversation too, Terren. I was really excited, real eager to have that conversation with you this morning here on our Wednesday edition. How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, enjoying this weather before the cold comes in. I'm doing okay.
That's right. Yeah, autumn is my favorite season. I don't know what it is about autumn, about the fall. It's just my favorite season, but same as you. So yeah, we kicked off, and we kind of like our conversations. We seem to be on the same wavelength because I had been thinking a lot about this conversation of black male voters. I'm sure you were, and then you saw this tweet from ousted ESPN analyst anchor Jamila Hill. She's now doing her own thing, and she put out this tweet about she's convinced that many black men want to be close to the patriarchy. They don't want to dismantle it. What did you think when you saw that? I was offended, frankly, and I mean, of all people to say that, Jamila Hill. Like, but I wanted you to go into it. Let's kind of kick off the conversation first about why that's such a problem, because it's not just her. It's her or folks like black women thought leaders like Brittany Cooper and others. There is this campaign, and it's like full throttle right now, just less than 2 weeks before the election, to disparage black men. I don't get it.
I get it. Really what it is a kind of a sort of what we talked about the week before, where the Democratic Party, the establishment Democrats, and the Democratic National Committee have pretty much written off black men as a voting bloc entirely. They focus all their energy on black men, and they pretty much put a lot of their energy as far as their unofficial advocates into black women who are in academia and black women in media. Now that would be one thing if it was just like ignoring black men in general, but there seems to be this idea that the way to appeal to the black voting bloc is to denigrate black men completely and cast black men as the boogeyman that are going to push Trump over the edge when, according to the last Gallup poll, Trump has about a 19% approval rating among black male voters and an 11% approval rating among black women voters, but they don't talk about that. Now, as far as this effort about denigrating black males and Jamila's tweet, I really think it's part of a coordinated campaign to try to push this narrative out into the general public to create this black male boogeyman that people need to move away from and try to take attention off these other ethnic groups who have far higher numbers of men who are going to vote for Trump. Like if you look at the numbers for white LGBTQ people, if you look at the numbers for Asian men, if you look at the numbers for Latino men, they're far higher than the numbers for black male Trump voters. Right. I just think what it is falling back into classic stereotypes about black men being aggressive and being predators and being boogeymen. And I think, unfortunately, they're feeding into it either for their personal gain or because they have some sort of personal things going on that they want to project on the black men. And, of course, if you have a power structure that's run by white supremacists, regardless of what side of the aisle they fall on, they're going to encourage that. So I think that's what's happening.
Yeah, you also you had, I think it was the president, Sandra Glover, president of the National Association of Black Journalists. She responded to you, and she was saying, I noticed that tweet where she was saying, "Oh, this is something to the effect of interesting thoughts, something to think about." I think that's what she said, and you were like, "No, we need to address this." I mean, because this is something that's not just Jamila Hill. There are a lot of black journalists, prominent black journalists, who persist with this conversation. That's not to say, I mean, no one's perfect. Black men are far, none of us are perfect. No human being is perfect. Black men are far from perfect, and we have issues that we're dealing with, whether, personally, in our relationships with our families. That's just being human. That's not something that is that is just for black men, or that is confined to just black men. I mean, in terms of the issues, the challenges that we have to go through. But it's a real problem here. I mean, I would think that the president of the NABJ would say, hey, you know what? We need to have a conversation as black journalists about how we treat black men.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did see that, and yeah, I did respond to it. I think let me first off say that I know Sarah Glover. I think she's a very fair person. I think she's done an excellent job as president of the NABJ. But I also know that among black journalists, there is this idea that you are not supposed to talk about air dirty laundry out of in public, which I understand. But at the same time, a lot of these academics and a lot of these people who work in journalism who are black are creating these narratives that are going to be very harmful to black men in general and black male voters in particular and the larger black collective, because it's not serving anybody. You know, if these people have various powerful positions, they are very well known, and they have a lot of power in academia and they have power in media. And a lot of people who are the white gatekeepers of these that get grant media access don't really engage with black people outside of the people they know in those circles. So those people are feeding them a narrative, and the people who are decision makers run with that narrative. It's extremely dangerous.
Yeah.
And I can't speak for what Sarah feels like she should or shouldn't say, but it definitely needs to be addressed, either from a space of journalistic integrity or just from a space of collective responsibility, because it's extremely dangerous, and to let that go unchecked is horrible. I think it's definitely going to have a detrimental effect.
It is. I think too. You know, there's a larger conversation even beyond what we're talking about or discussing as far as black men, which we need to. There is this conversation about, okay, well, how do black journalists, black media professionals navigate in white spaces? Like, they feel as well. There's a general feeling. Not all black journalists are like this, but I've seen this. I've actually seen this at play. I've actually pulled away from myself personally publications that I've written for where it doesn't feel right. And you know, my mother always told me, like, if it smells like it is it. You know, like, and so I just that always stuck with me. And where they feel like, okay, the way for you to climb to the top is you have to write that occasional piece which denigrates, which disparages or obliterates black people or black culture. I just, what comes to mind, I think I was reading this piece recently. It was like ultimate pettiness, but it was instructive. The writer Ishmael Reed, who's in New York, legendary black fiction, nonfiction writer, he wrote this, like, you may have read it recently. He wrote this piece that ripped apart the late Stanley Crouch. But he was saying Stanley Crouch was like that. Stanley Crouch, the Village Voice critic, and he used to take out and take down. It was like he would have like his white editors say, hey, we need you to write this brutal critique of Miles Davis' new album, or we need you to take out Ishmael Reed. It was like it's coordinated. So we have to get into a conversation about that. We're going to have to figure out a way, like, you can be successful as a black journalist in white media corporations without having to take out other black people.
Well, you know what? This is a history that goes all the way back to slavery. You know, Malcolm X talked about the field Negro and the house Negro, and a lot of black people who get access to white spaces are more than happy to be the field Negro. Right. And I understand when you're in a white space, there's certain compromises that are made, but if you get to the point where you feel like you have to compromise your spirit and sell out your people to sell false narratives, to try to secure your position, then you're no good as a journalist and you're no good as a black person. I'm sorry. I mean, I don't like talking like that, but it's just the truth. Yeah. If your job is journalism, and if your job is to be, even if you're just an op-ed journalist, you have to be fair about the people you're talking to. If you're gonna, at some point, you have to take a look at yourself and realize that what you're doing, if you're not offering any positive critiques, what you're doing is helping people who already have a negative opinion of the black collective feel worse about that, because they have a black cosigner next to them who's going along with these narratives, or who's letting themselves be fed these narratives and bring them back to the public. That's what's dangerous. Now, as far as, I did read the piece about that Ishmael Reed wrote about Stanley Crouch. I know some people in the music business who had a lot of issues with Stanley Crouch. He was apparently he was really pretty much a misanthrope and a real hater when it came to things outside of his idea of what black excellence in art was. Right. You've always had that, but I think you have to be open enough to see that maybe the way you were brought up and the way that you were trained about what excellence is a totally different model than what new generations are coming into. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people who that's another thing too. I think a lot of people who came up through traditional media felt like this was the way to get ahead was, I have to be you know the story, you got to be twice as good to get half as far. Right. And a lot of times, a side effect of that is I have to cut everybody's throat to get to my position. And that's what I think you're seeing. I think you're seeing that with people like Jamela Hill, Brittany Cooper. I think you're seeing it with a lot of people who have an issue with the black masses who are detached from black people as a whole, but they're very comfortable in white spaces too. So that's why they're able to say these things, because they don't have to deal with any kind of pushback from anybody who has to hold them accountable.
Yeah, you got to work twice as hard, but no one said you got to work, you got to be twice as hateful or twice as homicidal with your pen or your laptop. And that's very interesting too, because these are people who got their start or sort of gained their star from being a part of that cause. Like Jamila Hill, like just that she, at that moment, she found herself in a moment where she did the right thing and she was punished by that organization ESPN for it.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, the way I think she handled it well. So it's just, you know, to see folks like her or Brittany Cooper, you know, they start off being on the front lines of this cause, and then they end up doing something like this or encouraging conversations like this. A lot of it too, Torin, is the chickens coming home to roost. Because I saw this conversation back in 2016, was warning people, be careful what you're saying about brothers, about black men. The vast majority of black men did not vote like this. These were the kids in the back of the classroom. But still, how do we manage that? Because there is some of that. I don't know if it's, how do you see it? I mean, is it one, like when you see folks like Ice Cube or 50 Cent and others, or Kanye, when they come out and they're so, and they seem kind of like going against the grain of, you know, conventional black political interests, is that something we need to take seriously? I mean, is it something where it's like resentment, or it's chauvinism because they don't like someone like Kamala Harris potentially becoming president? Or is it because they feel real raw about the way black men were treated rhetorically, especially after the 2016 campaign?
Well, I think really what it is, I think it's a twofold issue. The first issue is going back to that idea about gatekeepers. A lot of people, even if you take out what 50 Cent and Ice Cube are doing, there's a gatekeeper class in the black community, in black academia, black politics, and definitely in black activism that feels like they should be the designated Negro whisperer that talks to the white power structure and brings whatever issues they can that are in the black community and try to create some sort of solutions for those people. The fact that somebody who's outside of that power structure and outside of that class system, who's outside of the college academic professorial caste system, maybe comes up and has the power to go talk to somebody with an actual plan, because all these people are successful in business. They're a lot more successful than some of these people who are academics, you know what I mean? So I think that's part of it. I think some of it's ego. I think the other part of it is what you just talked about. You know, I think some of these men, a lot of these men, especially in music and hip hop, have seen the effects of Biden's crime bill. You know what I mean? You listen to the music they make. Half of these brothers have people who are locked in prison that will never see life, be free again. A lot of them came up out of that trade. They grew up around the crime bill. A lot of these people have physical injuries. A lot of them have PTSD from growing up in these neighborhoods. A lot of them have friends who are dead because of this, you know what I mean, or strung out. So theory is not going to really move these people who had to grow up and see their friends die every day and see people and their families go to prison and their families destroyed by this crime bill. Joe Biden has made himself basically, he was very proud in front of getting in front of Congress and saying, I was the author of this. And now, and now all of a sudden you're telling me that it's a problem that people who are affected by that don't want to vote for this man. So that's part of it. And I think that's really what it is. I think it's a class issue, and it's an issue of detachment from people, from the masses of black people. They spend so much time trying to present themselves as the Negro whisperers to the white power structure that they're completely removed from the way black people are thinking. So that's what we're dealing with, and that's why there's so much vitriol. And as you said, you know, there's also the fact that black people who have positions in media and academia can say anything about black men, no matter how slanderous, no matter how false, with no data, and there's no pushback against that. You know, it's like when my tweet went viral a couple of weeks ago saying that, you know, you can't be pro-black and hate straight black men. There were people who work in magazines, there were people who work in academia who were upset because I said that, and they were saying that, yes, you can. Now, you try doing that to any other ethnic group and see if you have your job a day later. But with black men, it's okay.
No, yeah. Torin Walker, we got to, unfortunately, we got to cut you to break. So I want to talk about that next week, too, that 94 crime bill, because there's a lot of, you know, interesting politics around that. I think it's going to be a great discussion between you and I, because I want to make sure that that's like a full discussion. And definitely it's something that's caught the Biden campaign off balance and forced them to have to pitch more to white voters, particularly white suburban women voters, more so. And there's some people who are feeling like, because they got to fill the gap. And you know, at the end of the day, I mean, this is just a cynical political strategist. I mean, like, you got to win, you know, so you got to do what you got to do. You look for those votes. But yeah, that 94 crime bill, he just has not, that hasn't been unpacked as well as it should be. So we're going to talk about that next week. Torin Walker, author, founder, editor of the Context Media Group. Go to contextmediagroup.com. Go to @TorinWalker on social media. Definitely you can find him highly engaged there. He's joining us here on Reality Check. We're going to bring him on as much as we can each week for more of this enlightening conversation. Thanks again, Torin.
Thank you, Charles.
All right. Take care, brother. All right.
You too.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check midday, midweek. Let's take a quick break and we'll be right back.
Reverend Tyler, with November 3rd around the corner, do you know how you'll be voting this year?
Dr. Callahan, I requested my mail-in ballot, and I'm returning it the day it comes in the mail.
That's perfect, because we can't leave anything to chance this year.
Already received your mail-in ballot? You're just a few simple steps away from turning your mailbox into a ballot box. Here's how. After selecting your candidates, place your marked ballot into the small secrecy envelope and seal it. It's a 2-envelope process, so then you'll place the small secrecy envelope into the larger one. Make sure to seal that one too. Sign and date it, and then it's as simple as dropping it in your mailbox, no postage necessary, or returning it to your county election office. And if you still want to sign up to vote by mail or find out where to drop off your mail-in ballot, visit votespa.com.
I'm not waiting until November 3rd. I'm returning my mail-in ballot the day it comes in the mail.
Or you can return your ballot to your county election office.
I've got my plan. Make your plan to vote today.
Paid for by Power Interfaith.
Hi, my name is Dr. Blake. If you're out there with residual baby fat and you want that waistline back, Smart Lipo Laser is for you at Blake GI Med Spa Services. It is affordable, minimally invasive, minimum discomfort, minimum downtime, and no loose skin. You will see results in 24 hours. Give us a call at Blake GI Med Spa Services today, 215-849-4902.
As our nation battles a pandemic and economic downturn, the health and financial security of voters over 50 are on the line. That's why AARP Pennsylvania is fighting for your voice to be heard. From preventing cuts to Social Security, to protecting Medicare, to lowering prescription drug prices, you deserve to cast your vote on issues that matter to you, and AARP Pennsylvania is here to help. We want to make sure that you know all of your voting options and that all Americans, from working parents to family caregivers to seniors in nursing homes, can vote safely whether they choose to vote from home or in person. To learn more about how AARP Pennsylvania is fighting to protect voters 50 plus and how to make your voice heard this November, visit aarp.org/PA votes. Paid for by AARP.
Hello, I'm former Mayor John Street.
And I'm Mayor Street's son, Senator Sharif Street.
You know, I've been out here fighting for what's right for a long, long time, but I can't think of an election more important than the one that's happening right now.
We all know we have to vote for Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, but we also have a couple of hometown heroes that we need to elect.
Nina Ahmad served as the City of Philadelphia Deputy Mayor, and it would be a welcome change to have a strong woman of color go to Harrisburg to fight for all of us.
We also have working class hero John Kane running for state senate. He's a blue-collar guy ready to fight for better paying jobs and accessible health care. I'd love to have John Kane join me in the state senate.
This election is just too important. So when you go out, vote for Joe and Kamala.
Don't forget to vote for Nina Ahmad for Auditor General and John Kane for State Senator.
This message is paid for by the Friends of Sharif Street.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDRadio.com.
Okay, welcome back. Phone lines are open. Let's get to them. I think we have AC out of West Philly is calling in for a reality check. AC?
Hey, how you doing, Charles? I've been listening, but just haven't been calling in. I've just been so frustrated with everything that's going on, from the election to the pandemic to the epidemic. But let me talk about the epidemic for a minute. In 2013, at this same time, 200 people, that was 7 years ago, tragically lost their life due to murder. At this point, it's almost double. It's 389 as of today. Now, you know, in 2007, we lost 291. I think in 2006, it was 405.
Right.
By the end of the year. It's October the 20th, and we've already lost 389 people.
Mm-hmm.
And if you go that it may be 10 people in every family that this affects, you have a lot of people. Then you go to the shootings you have this year with victims, not just gunshot fire.
Right.
1,722 as of 10/18/2020. That's almost 50% more. And Charles, I'm telling you, nobody could keep their job with this kind of, and I'm not going and talking about the police commissioner, it goes further than that. Nobody could keep their job if you deliver those type of numbers. And people never talk about the clearance rate. The clearance rate is one of the most important things that deters crime. If you have a high clearance rate, you won't have this. And I hear very little talk about the clearance rate and putting the weight on the police department. I don't hear about a plan. I don't hear anything. I just hear the numbers going up, up, and up. And another thing about this election, Hillary Clinton set the Democratic Party back for years, at least the rest of my lifetime, by not winning the election. I hear about people talk about Pennsylvania and putting on a black man in this. Even if she'd have won Pennsylvania and Wisconsin, she still would have lost the election and got 257 electoral votes, and he would have got 274. So I hear all talk about Pennsylvania. We should win. We should have won. But she ran a poor campaign. She was born in Pennsylvania. She was the first lady of Arkansas. She lost both of those states. She didn't deserve to win. And now we're at the effect of getting a third federal judge, a third Supreme Court justice under his watch. And you eloquently put out how many federal district judges were appointed. Over 200. It's a direct result of her piss poor performance in the 2016 election. Even Kerry got 200, and when he went against Bush for a second term, he got 251 electoral votes. It was a landslide. Forget the popular vote. It was a landslide in what Trump did to her electoral college. He got 304, and she got 227.
Right.
And nobody wants to talk about that. Nobody wants to talk about the white suburban vote. White suburban women voted more for Trump than Hillary Clinton.
Yeah.
They said they weren't looking for a boyfriend. They were looking for a protector. So his persona worked for them. But I hear nobody blame them. It's the black man. It's the people from Philadelphia. Let me leave with this one thing, Charles, which is
we're not talking. You're absolutely right.
If you don't
AC, I got to let you go too because I got to get on these other couple. But you're absolutely right. We're not talking about white suburban women back in 2010, Latino men, white men, Asian men, LGBTQ men. We're not talking about like everybody's blame black man. You know, it's like I don't get that. Let me go to Titan out of New Jersey, calling it for a reality check. Titan.
So Charles, how you doing today, man?
Hey, what's happening? All right.
All right. I was listening to you and Brother Terrell talking, and my resolution for people talking about black men and misrepresenting us in our position is for us to like join together as dads, man. Like I remember when you were talking about the rape numbers for black women in Philly and the fact that you have daughters, and I do too, like that's concerning. So my issue is let's just join all our organizations together as dads in Philly and let's work together, and whether they talk good or bad about us, as long as we know we're doing good, that's what matters.
Right.
What's your opinion on that?
Right. No, I agree with that. I think that is a good approach. I think, brothers coming together and congregating like that. We saw that, like the success of that with the Million Man March. And I was there for that back in '95. It was just a beautiful day. And so we need that. We don't just need a day. We need like we don't need brothers like when they come together, like just to talk about sports or to, get into little sarcastic takedowns and jokes. No, we need brothers to congregate and actually as a sort of ministry. And I'm not saying that in the church sense. I mean, but we need brothers coming together like at all times and collaborating and creating positive efforts as part of a broader ministry effort. That's the kind of stuff we need happening. I see a lot of times, black men would come together, you feel like you got to get into, I mean, that's fine, when we sit in the barbershop or when we're just sitting around and talking sports or like nudging each other, talking about each other's moms or doing little jokes here and there. But, we need, like what Titan said, we need those bigger, broader, more deliberate and intentional spiritual efforts as brothers. And I think that will help a lot. Let me go to Abdul out of West Philly, who's calling in for a reality chat. Thank you for that, Titan. I appreciate you. Abdul.
Hey, how you doing there?
How you doing, brother? All right.
I was calling one to
Can't hear you, Abdul. You sound distant.
Okay, well, I'm on.
That's better. There you go.
Am I talking a little bit louder now?
Yeah, you're better. That's good.
Yeah, I wanted to touch a little bit on these rappers now, like Ice Cube and 50 Cent and some of them now. I mean, I'm a little bit, I think, a little bit up to speed, a little bit on politics. I mean, I don't know a lot, but I know a little bit enough to know when someone's using you as a photo op, and I also know a little bit enough to know when someone as smart as Ice Cube is, he's smart enough to strategize when to put out an album and have it, do his best term, or when to put out a movie, as far as a summer blockbuster or good fall movie, but as far as, being savvy enough as far as putting a politician's feet to the fire and asking them questions was supposed to be done during the Democratic primary, not when, when it's just toe-to-toe Biden against Trump, and now you put our guy to the fire when it's still what crazy people is undecided, and you have them associate you even talking to him, making them think that you with him, and some people are just novice, voters for the first time or even not even had that much a clue. You got some guys hang out in the corner and smoke weed and drink beer and think when they hear politicians say they going to bring jobs, they think somebody going to come down their street with a clipboard and a pen and start, saying there's jobs around here.
Right.
So you have people that much naive in the politics and thinking that, and also understand, I respect somebody like Joe Biden or Kamala Harris who can apologize and recognize the fault that they made and try to do better on it. So the crime bill, I was living in that life.
Yeah.
Selling drugs and doing wrong. But now I'm decent. I came out of that and been a family man and been working for over 25 years now and don't live that lifestyle no more. But it was a time I believed in that lifestyle, living crazy like that. But when crack took over, I can't blame those people from as way that we was killing each other up with Jamaican drug gangs, the Junior Black Mafia, and all these, and we was killing each other up, acting crazy like that. Nobody ain't know what to do. And they didn't know what to do as far as crime, and it made a lot of us pay. And I know some people right now paying that's in prison now, but Obama got a lot of people out as well, too, more than anybody else. But he apologized for that, like when Al Sharpton had all the candidates come to NAN and talk to them, ask them what they're going to do for reparations, ask them what they're going to do about crime bill. And that's when you put them at the fire. When you had, I think he had 17 out of 20 of them come there. And that's when you talk to them. You don't do it this late in the game. So that's my point with them. But I hope enough people got enough sense not to be stupid enough to be following these clowns like Kanye West and Ice Cube. I mean, even though Ice Cube was good at what he said and what he's trying to do for black people, it was just not thought out at the right time. You don't do it at the 11th hour when someone is desperate for votes. And the guy's showing, commercials with a lady running out of prison, and she owed him a lot. He saved her life sentence.
Yeah, you have to be careful. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's where he just stepped out of his lane. We could go on for a little bit about that. Abdul, I gotta let you go. I gotta go to break. Actually, went a little over time. Thank you for those comments. I appreciate that. Thank you for sharing that story too. I was sharing that personal story. I think a lot more people had to hear that, and the personal story in the context of that time. It was, there are a lot of people giving a lot of commentary on this issue. I either didn't live through that time, didn't know that time. So it's good to hear, when people talk about that and some of the experiences they went through and what led, the series of events or the sequence of events that led up to that. Let me take a break here on Reality Check. And when we come back, Dan Casarella of the Out of Love podcast is featured in the recently in the Philadelphia Citizen. We're coming up on our Citizen segment, and we're going to talk about domestic violence, some of the work that he's doing with respect to that, particularly domestic violence during pandemic. So our Citizen segment comes up next here on Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app. Stay tuned. We'll be right back.
Man, this coronavirus has us all moving differently.
No doubt. Like washing our hands more and social distancing with the crew. I'm always telling people to give me 6 feet. We're here, Grandmom.
There's my babies. Good to see you got your mask on.
Wear mask. Stop the spread. For more information, visit www.pa.gov/COVID.
Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
Looking for employment? JD's Auto Body and Painting is hiring. They have 2 positions if you have 5 years experience in auto body and framework. Also seeking painter with 5 years experience. And if you have experience as an A or B assembler, JD's Auto Body can be the place for you. Please call JD's Auto Body at 215-848-5949 or email jdsautobodyanpainting@comcast.net.
The Painted Bride Art Center in Old City, a farm in East Camden, and a hospital serving the black community in Coatesville. Watch the series Precious Places on WHYY TV 12 to learn about this unique community project. A project that binds neighborhoods with rich history and memories, plus a look into the present-day issues shaping our future. Watch Precious Places on WHYY TV 12 this Wednesday evening at 7:30 p.m. WHYY is our community. WHYY is you.
Always Best Care is a great place to work. Flexibility,
leadership, purpose,
great benefits.
There's never a dull moment.
Diversity,
inclusion,
compasión.
We love our jobs. If you're looking for a great place to work, you can join our compassionate Team Green. You can apply online at teamgreenabc.com or call 267-909-9248.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
4 years ago, Donald Trump asked Black America a simple question. Asked us, what do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
Since then, we've seen a rise in racial violence and white supremacy, an increase in poverty.
You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs.
While giving tax cuts to the rich. 200,000 dead from COVID, 1 in 5 are Black. We've lost our jobs, our businesses, our dignity, and even our lives. And he, Trump, dares to ask, what the hell do you have to lose?
What the hell do you have to lose?
Well, Mr. President, damn near everything. After 4 years of Trump, ask yourself, Black America, are you better off? Vote for change.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
This is WURD Radio, 96.1 FM and 900 AM WURD Philadelphia. Independent Black Media. Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, what's up? Welcome back to Reality Check 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app as well. We're waiting on Dan Casarella of the Out of Love podcast. So we got a new album out called Compilations of Love. It's a fundraiser for Women Against Abuse, a nonprofit advocacy group focused on domestic violence or fighting domestic violence. So we're supposed to talk with him as part of our weekly Citizen segment, which we do in conjunction with our partner, the Philadelphia Citizen. Go to the philadelphiacitizen.org for more information. Also to check out that feature story entitled Compilation of Love. So we're still waiting on him. So we'll just go ahead and open up phone lines. We'll keep those phone lines open. I'm not sure if we still have folks. I think there may have been a person or two that was on the line before we went to break. But 215-634-8065. toll free 866-361-0900, 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Well, we're just going to go ahead and open up the phone lines while we wait on Dan Calcerella. Okay, yeah, I think we had a person on, I think it was Spread Love who was on, and we had to go to break. But if Spread Love, you want to call back while we wait for Casarella, that's okay. 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900. Also, when you get a chance, go to the B Note. That's the companion magazine for Reality Check here on WURD, THEBE-note.com. Look at the latest there, some of the latest information analysis. Which U.S. states are hit most often by hurricanes? That's important information. You really should check it out. And when you look at the states that are hit most often by hurricanes, they're probably states where either you live or you have a lot of family, a lot of black family in them. These are places where there are high concentrations, some of the highest concentrations of black populations in the country. Are places where hurricanes are most common or where they hit the hardest. The top 10 hurricane states are Florida, Texas, and then tying for number 3 is Louisiana, North Carolina. These places sound familiar, right? South Carolina, Alabama, Georgia, Mississippi, then New York at 9th place, and then Virginia at 10. These are places where you have like really high concentrations. I mean, Virginia is where my mother's family's from, and also I have some blood coming out of Georgia too, as I'm sure many of you, and out of South Carolina. So as I'm sure many of you who listen into this program do. So those are the top 10 places where hurricanes are the most common, the top hurricane states. And something to keep in mind too, if you live in those places, in those hurricane alleyways, or you were considering a move into those places, be very aware of, and the hurricanes are intensifying. This has been a very intense, it's about to be a record-breaking hurricane season in terms of the frequency of hurricanes. And so, in fact, there have been about, over time, there have been about, since this has been recorded, there have been about 297 hurricanes which have made landfall in the United States, and 120 have hit Florida. So Florida is roughly affected by 40% of all hurricanes. So you can get all that at the B Note, BENOTE.com. There's a list of states with the highest chance of a hurricane being a major hurricane, and Pennsylvania ranks number 18 out of 20, out of the top 20 states. And Pennsylvania is on that list. And so obviously Philadelphia, always kind of, because it's near, closer and closer to the East Coast, is part of that Chesapeake Bay, Mid-Atlantic basin or area that's right next to the Atlantic Ocean. Philadelphia, always those hurricanes swipe through, or where the torrential rains and high winds and flooding from those systems always go through Philly. So that's what that's what we're talking about, or go through southeastern PA, the Philly area, when they come through. So, but it's on that list. So this is definitely a relevant conversation. And we were just talking to the environmental education planner of Philadelphia WURD Department about how they're preparing more and more for lots of high flooding over the years in Philly. They're going to have to ramp up those stormwater management systems and initiatives and models that they're putting, and initiatives that they're putting in place to keep the city as protected as possible, to help it manage its stormwater. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Phone lines are open. 215-634-8065. Toll free, it is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Also, when are hurricanes most likely to happen? Typically September. September is that month. August comes in second, and October, we're still in it, comes in third as far as the frequency of months when hurricanes happen. You typically don't see any hurricanes January through May. They start up in June, and then they fizzle out in November. You get about, on average, 5 hurricanes a month in November, and then you don't see any in December. So you get that lull between December to May. But we're still in the middle of it, and also the cost. The most costliest hurricane ever to hit the United States was Hurricane Katrina in 2005. So it was $170 billion worth of damage and 1,833 tallied deaths that we know of. Might have been there were a lot of people missing too, unaccounted for after Hurricane Katrina. So $170 billion. I'm sorry, millions. This is in millions. $170 million. Hurricane Katrina in terms of the cost. Hurricane Harvey comes in second. Hurricane Harvey, remember that? Just about a few years ago, 2017, $131 million worth of damage from Hurricane Harvey. Hurricane Maria came in third, and Hurricane Sandy fourth. Hurricane Irma fifth. You know, you have those most costly hurricanes happening in later years or in more recent years. Between 2012 and 2017. So it's just some real helpful and useful data, particularly if you live in those states, you have family living in those states, you're considering moving to those states. A lot of people, you know, some people out there still considering doing that southern living, and you know, you might want to kind of think twice about that with respect to hurricanes. Well, I mean, there's also the politics, but you might just want to consider that, you know, factor that in. As you're thinking about that, or, you know, definitely get more prepared for that when you have to get prepared to live in those particular states, you know, particularly if you are black. I mean, black about, I think it's about nearly 40% of the U.S. black population is situated in these states, and more likely than not, they're in a precarious economic circumstance, and so they still, I mean, there are still black families that have not recovered completely from Hurricane Katrina, have not been able to return to New Orleans, have not been able to recover fully financially, lost their homes completely. So, you know, we're just the most likely not to recover from these things. And so this is why this is important data. Let me go to Woody out of the barbershop, who's calling in for a reality check. Woody?
Yeah, man, I just wanted you to know that in the barbershop, a lot of serious talk goes on, but we do have fun at times. You stop and think about all the information that you were talking about. I think I shared something with you yesterday related to the guy Tim Macular with the touring company, who's bringing in, following up what Donald Trump said, bad things happen in Philadelphia. So he's having this thing, I believe it's tomorrow. And it will be a continuum if we don't have something to say about, you know, touring on our misery. You know, it's bad enough that we're, you know, the news media fuels the fire that causes fear of black males. That in itself is a problem around America. So we all know it. I had a young man here a few minutes ago, and he's a pretty big guy. And I said to him, I said, look, you know what I'm talking about. You know, you're the most decent cat in the world, but when you go out into society, you're feared. And that has a lot to do with how society looks at you, has to do with the media itself. So this guy coming here to do these tours, I think, is horrible. What there needs to be is a tour in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where they found 300 bodies when they were building for all of the Black Wall Street, those people that were bombed. They had their own airports and bus companies. They were doing very good, having their own schools. But that was in segregated times. You see what I'm saying? So today, since they integrate, they want to make money on you. So they had to integrate in order to make that money. But when they say, whoa, these cats are doing good on their own, we need to stop this. So they got a little jealous, not a little jealous, that's pretty jealous, to bomb people with their own airplanes. It was just horrible what happened. So why doesn't Tim Macular do a tour on that?
Right.
You see, and share some of the history of what this country really has to pay back, because that's why we need that office. I'll say it over and over again. We are the children of the former chattel slaves living in America today. We're not African Americans. African Americans come here freely with a good 1 to 12th grade education and take advantage of colleges. All immigrants do that. We are non-immigrants. It needs to be identified. And once we identify it, then we can start taking the pus out of the wound so that we will heal as a nation. Because other than doing that, and you keep hiding and putting little strips over it so that nobody can see it, it'll never heal. We have to open the door to show the damages of what chattel slavery actually was. And we're the non-immigrants, the only people in the nation that went through that.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, Woody. Definitely, we have to continue to not just think about that and talk about it, but also to act on that as well. I appreciate those thoughtful words. So I want to bring on our guest. We have him for a little bit of time. Remainder of the segment, Dan Casarella. He is the creator of a podcast called Out of Love, and he's been doing some really essential fundraising work for the organization Women Against Abuse. They are an advocacy organization fighting domestic violence in Philadelphia and also caring for or trying to find resources for survivors of intimate partner violence. And he is featured, Dan Casarella is featured in the Philadelphia Citizen recently in the article entitled Compilation of Love. He joins us here on Reality Check during our Citizen segment. Dan, how are you doing? Good morning. Or good afternoon, rather.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, excellent, excellent. So, the Out of Love podcast, what is that, real quick, what is that exactly?
Sure. So, last year my sister asked me to officiate her wedding, which I was very humbled and honored by. And then I realized I'm not the person you probably want to speak about love to. I'm not probably the person you want to have that ceremony. So, like anything in my life, I like to do a lot of research.
Right.
I wanted to talk to a lot of people about their perceptions on love and different types of relationships. And then going through that process, I thought, well, this would be like kind of fun to do a show. I used to do radio. I had a big love for that. So I turned it into a podcast called Out of Love, where every week we talk to different people about different perceptions on love, whether it be how to use a dating app, what is it like for identical twins to date, or just simple love stories like we talked to a couple who got together when one was in Spain and the other one was in California. So just exploring those different conversations and stories.
Yeah, that's refreshing. You know, because I see a lot of these podcasts and people doing videos on Instagram, and there's a lot of conversation about sex, right? And but not a lot of conversation about love, right? How do we manage love? So much respect for that, and you know, kind of what you're trying to do with that. So, you at one point became very concerned about domestic violence, particularly during COVID-19, especially during that lockdown phase, that stay-at-home phase. And we might have to go back into that. In a really dramatic way, since we're dealing with not a second, but a third surge or wave of COVID-19 infections. And so why suddenly did you start to think about what households were going through during that time, particularly with respect to domestic violence? How did that affect you, or how did that change you to do this fundraiser?
So domestic violence was always something I worked with, was something I advocated with when I was a social work student at Temple University. And one of my professors, Dr. Kareem Johnson, was one of our first guests on the podcast, and we were just talking about the psychology of love. And this episode was recorded right as the lockdown started, so there was like a lot of questions about how is this going to affect our social lives. And I asked him, is being stuck inside with your partner going to affect relationships? Are they going to all get better, or are they going to get worse? And he simply said the good ones are going to get better, and the bad ones are going to get worse. And having had that experience working with people who have experienced domestic abuse and advocating for it, it kind of shocked me a little bit to think about, well, if you're in an already bad relationship, this is only going to get worse. And you cannot leave the house to find options for help. And so immediately that's kind of where my mind turned. And really when we started looking towards doing fundraising, Women Against Abuse was the first place I wanted to look towards to kind of raise money for them.
Yeah. So you've partnered up with Women Against Abuse advocacy organization that captures and addresses, responds to domestic violence. How bad is that situation? Because you were saying you had done some work in this area at Temple University, so I assume focused on Philadelphia, Philly area. How bad is domestic violence in Philadelphia?
Well, it's as regular as it is in any city, but it's something that I don't think is talked about enough. One of the most important things is you can't just address this issue when it is an issue, when you know of a relationship that is going through domestic abuse. You have to educate and you have to prevent the issue. So one of the things Women Against Abuse does really well is they have a lot of community education programs. And that is really important, not just in Philadelphia, but in any city you live in, to know the signs of it, know if you're a friend or a family member of someone who's experiencing domestic abuse, how to talk about it, how to open up to it, and don't shun people out when you're getting frustrated that they're not doing what you think is right. You have to be very patient with people who are experiencing abuse because it's a really, really hard and vulnerable place for them to be in.
So you teamed up with Ian Farmer. There's a Philly band called Slaughter Beach Dog. I heard some of their music, so I like to explore all kinds of music. So I like some of the sounds coming out of Slaughter Beach Dog. So and you teamed up to get Philly musicians together, a variety of Philly artists, to write any kind of song they wanted as long as it was based on love. And this is the fundraiser. This is the basically the foundation of the fundraiser. How's that worked out so far? So you've got 10 songs on this album compilation of love, and it was released earlier this month. You can get it for $8. And so how's that been going so far?
It's been great. Ian has been my best friend since middle school, and he's done a lot of different projects in music. And so when I came to him with this idea, I had no idea how to make a compilation album. And he said, "Oh, let's just ask all our friends to write a new song responding to the word love." And I said, "Ian, people aren't going to want to write songs for us. Like, they're not going to give it to us for free." And the outpour was crazy to me. We got 24 original songs. They're really high-quality, good studio songs. They're about anything from people's partners, people's parents, their pets, to an old Chevy Caravan or the New York Islanders. So the album explores a lot of different types of love and how you can show love. And the outpour has been great. Just on the album alone, we raised about over $200,000. We're looking for 3, and we think we can achieve that by the end of the month. It is available on the website, bandcamp.com. It is at the price of $8. If you would like to pay more, of course, whatever your heart can give us, we would love to have. But yeah, it's been an incredible experience so far to release the album and see the response it's gotten.
Definitely check out the compilation of love, out of love show.bandcamp.com. That's where you can also check out that release. Go to the PhiladelphiaCitizen.org. The Citizen recommends, that's the section of the Philadelphia Citizen at the PhiladelphiaCitizen.org. It's entitled Compilation of Love. You learn more about this effort that Dan Casarella is putting together. We have him here on, the host, creator of the Out of Love podcast. I'm going to check that out, Dan. I really appreciate you coming on. Appreciate this work, too. I appreciate that focus. I think we don't talk about that issue enough, and we probably don't even know how the full extent of it. So just anybody or anyone, any effort putting a spotlight on it, I truly appreciate that work. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for having me today.
All right. Take care. All right, let's take a break, and when we come back on the other side, we're supposed to talk with election security advocate Jennifer Cohn. She's scheduled to come up next here on Reality Check, talk about the latest that's happening in election 2020 as far as election security. Also, how secure are those machines? There's a lot of concerns about that, particularly in states. Once again, Georgia's ground zero for this, and a number of other places. But we're going to have Jenny Cohn on. Also, phone lines are open in case you have questions for Jenny Cohn, for Jennifer Cohn. 215-634-8065, 866-361-0900. In case you have questions about election security concerns or anything that you're confused about as you've already voted or you're getting ready to vote or planning to vote on the big day on November 3rd. All right, let's take a break and we'll be right back.
Right now, the health and financial security of voters over 50 are on the line. That's why AARP Pennsylvania is fighting for your voice to be heard. AARP Pennsylvania wants to make sure that you know all of your voting options and that all Americans can vote safely, whether they choose to vote from home or in person. To learn more about your voting options, visit aarp.org/PA Votes. Paid for by AARP.
At PICO, we know one thing is certain. Times have changed. From kitchen classrooms to couch conference calls, searching for a new job, or new ways to keep your family connected. These changes have become a part of our reality. That's why our teams are working 24/7 to meet the needs of our communities. So no matter how much things change, you can depend on PICO to be there with the energy and help you need to power through. Learn more at pico.com.
Listen to Laborers Live.
We created the weekend. We created the 40-hour work week. We just want enough to feed our family, be able to send our children to college, and let our next generation do better than we did.
To people that might have forgot how important unionism is in a country like the United States. People now infringing on our 8-hour workday, kind of work people more than 8 hours without overtime, kind of work people without benefits. In the long run, everybody's getting a fat paycheck except the worker. So this is really a wake-up call for America.
The struggle is continuous. Tune in to Laborers Live every Friday from 4 to 5 p.m. Sponsored by LESIT, the Laborers Employers Cooperation Education Trust of the Laborers District Council of Philadelphia and vicinity.
Local 332, Sam Staten Jr. Business Manager. Local 57, Esteban Vera Business Manager. Local 135, Dan Woodall Jr. Business Manager. Local 413, James Harper Jr. Business Manager. The Laborers District Council, Ryan Boyer Business Manager, and Tony Staten, Executive Director of LESIT.
What you get for your vote is important. For decades, Democrats like Joe Biden have taken our votes for granted. They have promised us a better future and never delivered. What did our votes for Biden get us? He wrote the 1994 crime bill that put millions of black men in prison for nonviolent crimes and a sluggish economy that left our communities behind. What does a vote for President Trump and his Platinum Plan get you? A contract with Black America that prioritizes black economic empowerment, 3 million new jobs for the black community, 500,000 new black-owned businesses, an increase in access to capital in black communities by almost $500 billion, better and cheaper health care, more education opportunities, and continued historic improvements to our criminal justice system. A vote for Biden gets you the same failed policies we've seen for decades. But with President Trump, the best is yet to come.
I'm Donald Trump, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Donald J. Trump for President Incorporated.
Reality Check with Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
We're back at it midday, midweek here on the home of Black Talk Media. It's WURD. It's Reality Check, 96.1 FM, 900 AM in Philly proper, Greater Philly, Delaware Valley, but beyond, throughout the nation, throughout the world, you can tune into us at WURDradio.com, WURDradio.com, and WURD TV, and through your WURD app on your smartphone or tablet device as well. Hashtag Reality Check for more clips, excerpts of the conversation, and also at Ellison Report on Twitter.com. Joining us now is election security advocate, writer, attorney, Jennifer Cohn. She joins us here every week to talk about election security issues and challenges that we're facing in the 2020 election. Go to @JennyCohn, COHN1 on social media, on Twitter more specifically, where she's highly engaged and very informative, just important information that you need to know preparing for election 2020. It's quite an insecure election, right, Jenny? And I know you've been putting a lot of focus and a lot of time into looking at what's happening in Georgia. I know you're looking at all states, but I know Georgia, to you're really concerned about what's happening down there, especially as far as voting machines are concerned.
Yeah, I've been watching Georgia really carefully for about 2.5 years. So, and yeah, it seems like when things, they're always ground zero for whatever new bad trend in voting is hitting the United States. It starts there. So it's a good idea to keep an eye on them. But yeah, I'm very concerned. They have 2 Senate seats up for grabs, for one thing. So, right. And it's the only state that has that. And then their system is just sort of a perfect example of what election transparency does not look like.
Talk more about that too, because those Senate, there's 2 Senate seats that are up for grabs, and they're literally up for grabs. Those seats have become rather competitive. Incumbent senators right now in those seats, Senator Perdue and Senator Loeffler, and now you have some real able candidates who are taking them on. There's a possibility that at least one of those races may not go into a runoff phase, but also the Georgia House, the Georgia State House, I'm hearing now is one of those 10 state legislative chambers that could flip from Republican to Democrat. And so as much as we start seeing those numbers being very promising for Democrats, suddenly we start seeing problems as far as not only voter suppression, but the election insecurity with the machines. What are those specific concerns that are still going on right now? Has there been like a new wrinkle? I know we talk about this each week. Has there been a new wrinkle that we've seen as far as like how these voting machines are being administered? We are seeing long polling lines in Georgia, as we're seeing in a number of other places.
Well, it's actually there. I'm writing an article, and so I kind of went back and have been reviewing my notes, and it's not even really so much a new wrinkle as an ongoing wrinkle that I kind of lost track of because of all the long lines and the breakdowns.
Wow.
So the thing is, experts say that the only way to know if electronic outcomes are legitimate is to conduct either a robust manual election audit with a reliable paper record, or to do a full manual recount. And there are just many, many ways that these systems can be penetrated by either by insiders or internet hackers. But you know, we really can't lose track of the corrupt insiders, especially in a state like Georgia. And so what has me very concerned is they sort of sold this new system, these new touchscreen systems, with the idea that they generate a piece of paper, but all paper is not created equal in the election context, and grifters are going to grift, and so the paper is kind of crapped. Studies have long shown that voters never look at paper marked by a touchscreen, which means it's kind of an invitation for fraud, because especially for anything below the presidency, people are unlikely to notice if that paper trail that you would be using to conduct an audit or a recount itself is fraudulent, or if it's correct. But even putting that aside, in Georgia, they plan to only audit one race chosen by the Secretary of State every 2 years. And so, you know, it's a Republican Secretary of State. He could just, there are many races on the ballot. They can just choose a token race and have that be the one that is audited. It's not even clear under their law what happens if there's a discrepancy anyway. If it goes to a recount, the only Democrat on the state election board has said that there's a QR code on that piece of paper that gets printed out. There's a QR code at the top, and then there's the human readable text beneath it. They both supposedly reflect what the voter chose, but the QR code, which they absolutely can't read, is the only part counted as your vote. And so I'm just very worried. You know, I doubt, if they were cheating, I doubt they would do a complete route, but I'm worried we won't do as well as we should do, and there won't be a good way to verify that. I really would encourage candidates, if they lose, to file election challenges and go to court, and to contact Marilyn Marks in particular, who's a really great advocate there and is in the middle of a lawsuit. She tried to get rid of these new touchscreens in time for November and replace them with hand-marked paper ballots. And the judge just didn't feel there was enough time. And I think there's a good chance she will win in the end, but not for November. In November, there's a lot.
Yeah.
So that was a long answer, but I'm just really worried we don't have a way to verify the election outcomes there, is the bottom line.
No, that's okay. You know, as much information as possible is useful. And, you know, it's all about skimming as many votes off the top as you can. I guess that's the Republican game here. Right. You're absolutely right. You made a good point there about a few seconds ago, where it won't be a full route. You know, they're not going to, they're trying to figure out a way here where they can be obvious with, well, they can't be so obvious about it. They're already obvious to me and to you and to others who are watching this closely. But, okay, well, what's a way that we're not so obvious about it, you know, and just kind of shaving votes off the margins, off the top, so you're making the races tighter and tighter. So then they can, you know, scream, oh, voter fraud, or, you know, we're not going to concede because it's tight, it's too close, and then, you know, take it to another level or another channel.
That's right. Kemp has a real history, too, of very similar to Trump, projecting to others, you know, what he is, his own bad intentions. And so, you know, he accused the Democrat, when he was running against Stacey Abrams, he accused the Democrats of hacking into some, I think it was into the voter registration system. And it was just, it was complete crap, because he was, as Secretary of State, he was running for governor. Yeah. But they were finding all of these problems with the election system, and that was really falling on him. And so to deflect and project, when another problem was coming out about a problem with the voter registration system, he claimed that the problem was that the Democrats had hacked into it. And there was zero evidence of that. I mean, it was just a false claim, no evidence of it. But it takes a while for people to prove that, for the media to catch up. They have to then look into it. And, you know, by then he was the governor. So.
You know, Jenny, there's one aspect of election security. I'm wondering if you have any thoughts on this, or if you've watched it closely, because I get questions about it from you know, just if not random listeners, family members, folks who wonder about the ballot count and the people, you know, because they're human beings who are going to do that work, ballot counting. And so I often hear this question that comes up: can we trust the people in these election administration offices who are doing the ballot counting? Will we be able to trust those people? Are we going to be able to trust that people in certain counties and certain places aren't going to throw certain ballots out that they don't like? I keep getting that question frequently. I don't know, is that a concern? Is that something we should be concerned about or not?
It's a great question. So I think people sometimes think with vote by mail that it's hand counted. It is not.
Okay.
They're counted on scanners, but there are people putting them through the scanners. The checking of the signatures is often done by hand. It can also be done by machines. It kind of varies from office to office. The smaller offices, I think, do it by hand. Mm-hmm. The short answer is, you know, in a philosophical way, absolutely we should not trust anybody. You know, whenever you're assessing threats, you're supposed to assume the worst. You start with that, and then you try to come up with procedures where even if you had the devil himself counting the ballots or using the scanner, you would be able to detect the problem. And the concern I have is that we just don't have enough transparency in our system, in really most aspects of it, to be able, trust isn't, we shouldn't have to trust. And so the question in itself sort of answers itself. It's a problem that people are concerned that they feel that they have to trust someone. Whatever county you're in, you can call the county and find out what they allow in terms of public observation of the various processes, and that will vary as well. But I think if people are interested and concerned, we absolutely, the more eyes, the better, observing whatever aspect it is that you're concerned about or interested in. And, you know, if you see a problem, by the way, there is a new website, csay2020.com.
Yeah.
And it's a public interactive map, and you can tell them, and they'll vet it, and assuming it appears to be a correct concern, they will put it on their map, which is really important because up until now, we have only had the hotlines, which provide an important service in terms of walking people through problems, but they don't make their data public. Yeah. So anyway, I think election observers and just members of the public watching the processes are really important, and you should call the county and find out if you can do it in your county. And if you can't, that's a problem, actually. The transparency applies to, you need it to all aspects so that we can have faith in the outcome of the election, no matter which way it goes.
Yeah. Thank you for answering that, too. And thank you for that tip. It is something that's come to my mind, too. When I see news reports and they have, like, those kind of standard news reels of people counting ballots, and some of the people counting ballots, they tend to fit the demographic profile of folks who might vote or lean Republican or vote for Trump. And so I'm like, okay, and I get those questions from other people who are like, can we trust the people in some of these, like, especially in some of these counties that are going to be hotly contested in places like Georgia or Florida? Yeah.
I mean, neither side should have to nobody is trusting anybody, especially right now, but really all along, I think we were very naive to have allowed our system, a faith-based system, to go this far and this long. And now here we are in an extremely polarized country where nobody trusts anybody. And we still kind of got that same system, and we just need to light it up wherever we can. And that means volunteers, people on the ground who actually just kind of figure it out and call their counties and get involved and watch where they can.
Yeah. You expressed some concerns recently. I was saying this too. I was really concerned this $1 billion no bid contract about for a very lucrative, I think it's like a $5 billion 5G spectrum contract to the Department of Defense, and that's going to Rivada Networks. There's a lot of prominent Republicans, Trump supporters. Karl Rove, the infamous Republican political strategist, lobbied Trump heavily for this contract. You have some concerns about that, and as it's tied to election security, particularly when we look at Karl Rove's history in places like Alabama.
Yeah, he's just a guy to really keep an eye on. I mean, he has a reputation. Honestly, the concern is that he steals elections. That is his reputation, correct or otherwise, but it was just very glaring that suddenly Trump appears to be directing a whole lot of money toward Karl Rove right before an election. And the reason why I posted it along with what happened in Alabama is it's one of the more glaring examples of Karl Rove, the kind of stuff he pulls. So Don Siegelman is the last Democratic governor of Alabama. Mm-hmm. And I've interviewed him several times actually, but I interviewed him several months ago the first time, and his story is really tragic and really, well, I don't think he'd like me to say it's tragic exactly. It's really remarkable. It's a tragic statement about our country. So he was one of the most popular, if not the most popular politician in Alabama of all time. He had been governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, and attorney general. And he was running for re-election. He was expected to win. And on election night, he was running against a guy whose campaign manager was close with Karl Rove. And late in the night so the results in this distant Republican county showed that, came up with this one result, and Siegelman was declared victorious of the entire, not so much of the county, but with that vote count, that gave him the race. So he had won re-election. And then after everybody was sent home from the courthouse, because the way they did it is they would post the results outside the courthouse is locked up, everybody went home, and suddenly 6,000 votes disappeared from Siegelman's total. And that was enough to throw the election to his Republican opponent. And it was only in this one county, in this one precinct, apparently. And so Siegelman was going to do a recount. It really would not, he was concerned, but he felt there were actually paper ballots. But Karl Rove's client was the Alabama Attorney General, and they seized the paper ballots and they certified the election outcome prematurely. It's very difficult to do anything once an election outcome has been certified. And then, of course, Karl Rove had already, it helped install various Republican operatives all over the Alabama Supreme Court. And so Don Siegelman just says that they stole the election electronically. There were two Republican operatives who were acting as what they called ballot security experts, which I guess is code for voter suppression. Mm-hmm. But they were actually involved with the machines, and they claimed to have been trained by the software supplier, which was voting machine vendor ES&S, which had provided the voting machines. And so it was just anything involving Karl Rove and elections, no matter what aspect of it. He also was infamous in Alabama for pulling victory from defeat by nitpicking and tossing ballots, based on things like a signature match. I don't know if that was the issue back then, if it was signature match, but whatever equivalent they were using, he would do that to pull out a victory for the Republicans. And he'd have an army of lawyers. He'd always out-lawyer the other side and intimidate and do the psychological warfare where they would project that the Democrats are engaged in a power grab when, in fact, it was Rove and his minions. And so, I've been watching him all along, and then suddenly I saw two things with Karl Rove's name in very short order. He's up to no good in Ohio. I don't know.
Exactly.
And then I saw this Trump sending a bunch of money his way, it seems like. That just worried me.
We've been talking with Jenny Cohn. Jenny Cohn, election security advocate, also attorney, writer, hashtag protect our votes. Go to @Jenny Cohn, COHN1 on social media, on Twitter, to learn more about her there and her work, really essential work here. She's doing that work. She's on the ground and fighting that battle, because we need it as the closer we get to November 3rd. So we'll be keeping in touch with her. And in fact, we'll have her on next week, the same time here on Reality Check. Jenny, thanks for your time again.
Thank you. It's great talking with you as always.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that. Take care. Be safe.
You too. Bye-bye.
All right, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, phone lines are open at 215-634-8065, toll free 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. Let's take a break, and we'll be right back.
COVID-19 impacted a lot of things this year, including regular vaccination appointments. Vaccines help protect you and everyone around you, especially during flu season. Schedule an appointment with your healthcare provider today to make sure you and your children are vaccinated. Vaccines keep us safe, and they work. Skip the flu this year. Get your vaccination today. Let's stay protected together. For more information, visit health.pa.gov. Paid for with Pennsylvania taxpayer dollars.
4 years ago, Donald Trump asked Black America a simple question. Asked us, what do you have to lose?
What do you have to lose?
Since then, we've seen a rise in racial violence and white supremacy, an increase in poverty.
You're living in poverty. Your schools are no good. You have no jobs.
While giving tax cuts to the rich. 200,000 dead from COVID, 1 in 5 are Black. We've lost our jobs, our businesses, our dignity, and even our lives. And he, Trump, dares to ask, what the hell do you have to lose?
What the hell do you have to lose?
Well, Mr. President, damn near everything. After 4 years of Trump, ask yourself, Black America, are you better off? Vote for change.
I'm Joe Biden, candidate for president, and I approve this message.
Paid for by Biden for president.
Jefferson Health offers no-cost COVID-19 testing at St. Raymond of Pinafort Church. Testing is on Thursdays and Saturdays. For testing hours and more information, call 1-833-533-3463.
WURD Radio presents the following wellness tip to support our listeners with mindfulness and motivation as we continue to navigate the pandemic together.
Hi, this is Halana, your resident health and wellness coach with tips to help you stay well. Let's talk about eating mindfully. Often we are rushing from moment to moment and we hurry through our eating like it's checking off an item on our to-do list. Each day for each meal, let's commit to doing these 3 simple things to activate our mindful eating experience. Number 1, slow down. Number 2, eat while you're sitting down. And number 3, chew each bite 20 to 30 times. You can do it. Eating mindfully is something we can all do to support our overall health and digestion. Go ahead and try it for your next meal today. Stay well with WURD. Happy living.
Stay well with WURD. Connect with us at WURDradio.com.
Tune in this Saturday at 2 p.m. for special programming with retired Judge Thomasine Tynes and attorney Jetty Newkirk for things you should know about the election.
With Charles Ellison right now on WURD Radio and WURDradio.com.
All right, welcome back to Reality Check here on 96.1 FM, 900 AM, WURDradio.com, WURD TV, WURD app as well. 215-634-8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. 215-634-8065. 8065, toll free. It is 866-361-0900 here on Reality Check. You'll definitely call in if you can. Okay, sorry about that. I wanted to share some information with folks on WURD TV. I was trying to do a screen share there, see if I can show some data points regarding like the Philadelphia homicide rate, but I don't think that screen share worked because when I looked on Facebook Live, it looked like I just blanked out. You could hear me, but you couldn't see me, so not exactly sure. We'll try that one more time. Maybe I'll experiment with that a little bit more at a later point. But 215-634-8065, toll free, 866-361-0900. Looking at, I just want to go back to something that AC was talking about before, because we can't emphasize strong enough how severe the situation still. It is not alleviating the crime situation, the violent crime situation in Philadelphia. Homicides now 39%, officially 39% above where they were this time last year. Now, take note, there were the last time there were 391 homicides, or more than 390 homicides in Philadelphia was 13 years ago in 2007. It was about a total, that full year, there were 391 homicides in the city of Philadelphia in 2007. We're now at 389. We're about to surpass. We are at this rate. And sadly, tragically, this is so hard to say. I don't want to say it. But we have to be realistic about this. Philadelphia is on pace to surpass, and just it will probably happen by tomorrow or sometime this week. It is on pace to surpass its record 2007 homicide rate. It was about 391 homicides in 2007. That was a bad year, and that was also like right before the Great Recession hit. and it's about to happen again, but we're about to go past that. We're at 389 homicides thus far. In 2020, we have not hit the end of 2020 just yet, and so that's just something that people are once again just kind of worrying about a plan. We now have over 1,700 shooting victims in the city of Philadelphia. That's aside from the homicides, we have 1,722 shooting victims in 2020 thus far. That's 47.1% over the number of shooting victims at the same time last year. There have been 2,974 shooting incidents. There's been nearly 3,000 shooting incidents in the city of Philadelphia in 2020. That data point is 58% more than shooting incidents at the same time last year. So obviously that's a problem, and the city does not have a handle on it. We have no sign or no indication that the city has a handle on it. Let me go to Derek out of Colorado calling in for a reality check. Derek?
Yeah, Charles, you had somebody on earlier, and it was dealing with the impervious surfaces and everything, and you were talking about these flooding and everything.
Right.
And there are 2 points I want to bring out. Is when I was looking at Philadelphia, I just went online, I was looking at the homes. Then it seems to me you guys have in your black neighborhoods or whatever neighborhoods, I saw very few trees. I saw tons of concrete on the sidewalks.
Yeah.
And where I'm headed with this, or maybe there's some plan to make these services they're not so impervious, more parks and everything.
There's a big tree planting initiative that's going on right now.
And also they talked about Houston, Texas, when they had that flooding. They said the problem with Houston is that when they built everything, they built so many impervious surfaces. I didn't know what it meant, but like you said, it was talking about concrete and asphalt.
Right.
And the water just runs off, and then when it runs really quick. Is that the same situation in Philadelphia, like what I'm saying?
Yeah, you do have this situation. You have this situation not as bad or intense as in Houston because there's more tree canopy in Philadelphia than there is in places like Houston. So the problem, you have a lot of these clogged up storm water drainage places, because people, because there's a lot of trash piling up and hence Philadelphia, there's a lot of people have a trash problem in Philly, and we're working on that. They are in the midst of planting more trees. There is a big tree planting initiative that's being rolled out as we speak in Philly to get more trees, because we've got the largest urban park in the United States, Fairmount Park in Philadelphia. A lot of people don't realize it's not Central Park. Yeah, it's not Central Park. It's Philadelphia's Fairmount Park, which just spans across the city. And so there's a lot of tree. When you go to Philly, if you've ever been, Derek, you'll see that's one of the things you grew up with in Philly. Yeah. I have to let you go, Derek. Let me take this one last caller, but I appreciate that. Thanks for that question. George out of Center City is going to have to get the last word here on the Wednesday edition of Reality Check. George?
And I had to really get in, and I was hoping you would stay on the long. Your tax abatement. Didn't I tell you that don't worry about it? It's just an election day plot, something to get your attention. And lo and behold, it was. And you know who's the main ones who pushing the issue for it? Look at everybody's things of donations, and then say 3.0, all these working party families. They're the ones who benefited from it. They're the ones. See, whose money you take is whose food you eat. You answer to the ones who give you the envelopes. So you look at all that there, look at everybody's financial reports, and see how much money they got to make sure that those developers, it's not helping the building trades, it's helping these developers who coming into the city and everything. So when people start talking about the building trades and this and that, they don't know what they're talking about. They just running their mouth. But it's their people. And they say, oh, well, we're going to have a bunch of blacks on council. No, you got a bunch of people on council who are sitting up there going to set you back another 20 years. They're not for poor people. They're for the new ones who are moving in from New York and these different other places. One other thing real quick, Charles. You should stick with this violence, okay? Your show can make a big difference in making people do what they're supposed to do. Everybody's benefiting from all these killings. Believe me, people, these groups and all, because if there's no killings, they can't get no checks. And with no checks, they can't do what they got to do. It's all about money. I keep telling you that there. And then that's why they all sit there and they happy McNesby and the rest of these people are at odds with the police because everybody's benefiting from these jokers running around here shooting and acting crazy. You know, whatever I tell you, it's always a matter of documenting. It's a matter of what they call.
And George, I gotta let you go because we got cut out because we gotta get ready for the source. That's going to be coming up next here on WURD. That's it for the mid. Thanks, George. I appreciate those thoughts, though. Some food for thought. We'll talk about it tomorrow during City Council Live. City Council Live is tomorrow at 10 a.m. sharp. So I'll be joining you there as your anchor for City Council Live. Continue to tune in to 96.1 FM, 900 AM. I'm Charles Ellison. I want to thank Jordan Booth, too, continuing at the Board of Steel, filling in for Troy Wilmore, who will be back at some point in the near future. And Philly wants you to, and beyond, wants you to stay sharp, stay smart, but more importantly, please, yes, y'all got to stay safe out there. Keep yourself safe, especially in Philly. It's not looking good. So, but we'll talk more about it tomorrow, and hopefully City Council will too, here on WURD. Take care. Have a good evening.